It's thinking, okay, it went red, so we're live.
We are live. We're in the red.
I would say welcome back to, but I have not named this segment yet since you are my very first non author on the channel. And you already took Talking with Tubers,
Yeah,
which would have been my first guess.
really.
And I'm
Like
guessing Tube Talk's probably already been taken. So this is to be named later.
Tube Talk. That'd be a good one.
It would, maybe it's not taken, but I'm almost positive it's taken.
Yeah.
All right. So anybody who doesn't know, this is the Titan of Tingle.
Yeah, I
John
like that.
as Hans Minton. Exactly.
And that I'm trained. I'm trained how to do that. So,
All right. And I see the skull is facing the right direction.
you know what? Are you that way too? Like if somebody came and sat in your chair, like you would know, right?
I think I would know, although I'm not too worried about it. The only thing I'm worried about is this floor is not perfectly level. Hey, how's it going?
What's up,
Um,
Zach?
So if I don't sit just right, I start to roll back.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, this house was built in the 1800s, so there's absolutely nothing level anywhere in the house.
Yeah, this is. I've joked with my wife. We're going the wrong direction. We got married, had kids. Our first house we got in around 2000 was built into 2000.
Yeah.
I mean, we literally had to wait to move in because it wasn't ready yet. Our second house was built in the 70s. This house was built in the 60s.
Yeah.
I'm officially in a house that's older than me. So
It's hard to do, but I'm in a house that's older than me. This was built in 1890 something. So it's up. It's
hopefully
old.
that's older than you.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's not easy anymore.
Otherwise, you're looking really good for 1890s.
Yeah, I do look
You
really
already
good
got
for
more
1890.
hair than me, and you're older than me.
Well, that's that's camera tricks.
Oh man. So I did have a couple of questions for you just to get started on here.
Yeah.
Some of these you may have answered elsewhere, but one of the things I notice you talk about all the time is you started over in horror. That was kind of what you read to begin with. And you read so much fantasy, and I know you're looking for more sci-fi. Why, when you came on to BookTube, or maybe it started even before then, why did you switch over to more? I know you still read horror, but why more fantasy?
You know what? It's just kind of like a catch-up thing. Like I was watching a lot of BookTube, and it seemed to be like the corner of BookTube I was with, Mike, and these channels. They were talking about a lot of fantasy, and these books were sounding really interesting to me. And I had never read. I mean, I had read Once and Future King and Chronicles of Narnia and Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. The real big. I had read the biggies. But there's so many stuff they were talking about. Like I had no idea who Brandon Sanderson was. I had no idea who Joe Abercrombie was. I had no idea. Like all the stuff they were talking about, I was like, man, I think I want to get some of that. That sounds awesome. So when I did this, it was just like, I'm going to catch up on all this that I missed because I've not been reading in that area, in that arena, right? I've been reading so much horror and some but not in sci-fi, but not as much. And fantasy was very it would have to be Game of Thrones level to kind of break through and go, yeah, I want to try that. Although I read it long before the show, not that big, but.
But yeah, I think I read book one when the show came out because I wanted to read it before I watched it.
Yeah. I don't know what it was. For some reason, I read that early on. It just caught my attention. And I read it early on. But it's like I was a big, from junior high, I was a Stephen King fanatic and Clive Barker. And
yeah, that probably is going to answer one of my other questions too, because like I said, I am a hair younger than you. It's not by much. So I kind of came up in that whole late 80s. I graduated in 89 high school. So
yeah.
Late 80s, early 90s. I was actually kind of into horror at the time.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you.
Horror
Stephen
in the
King
80s was awesome,
Robert
right?
McCammon?
Oh, see, that's a tough question.
I know that's a tough question. That's why I'm asking it.
That's a tough question, man. I mean, for me, look, pure catalog's got to be Stephen King. Like that dude has work. I've been reading him since junior high, and I haven't read everything he's done.
Right.
But if I were to name a favorite author, I think Robert McCammon would leave my lips before Stephen King, just because I respect the toolbox. Like, there are moments. I respect the toolbox for King too. Like, he does characters amazing. He does coming of age. He's got things in his toolbox he does just amazingly well. But Robert McCammon, I just connect with him. I don't know, I can't put my finger on why, but he would edge out. Like, for me, I would edge out Swan Song a little bit over The Stand, and
Yeah.
I would edge out McCammon. For me, I would edge him out a little over King. That's just me.
No, and like I said, to me, those two are kind of like a 1A, 1B.
Right?
I mean, whoever you pick, it's either way, it's slight.
I mean, there's no wrong answer there.
Yeah.
And horror in the 80s, man, wasn't it freaking a great time?
It was crazy. There was a point in time I dropped out a hair early because everybody I know loves Boys Life. I didn't read Boys Life.
Oh.
But I read probably everything McCammon wrote up till I don't think I ever got around to reading Gone South.
Oh,
I think that was the book before Boys Life.
Yeah.
And then he just kind of disappeared.
Well, he wanted to do, like, you could kind of see, right? Like, later on with Mine, Gone South, Boys Life, like, he was kind of trending towards or moving away from outright horror into, like, magical realism, more literary.
Yep.
Different feelings, different vibes. And I mean, if you look at how they were marketing him, like, look at his book covers, his paperback releases from Pocket, like when they were first coming out, right? They were crazy, pulpy, lurid, like, I don't think, and I think he sold really well. Like, I don't think they wanted to let him go where he wanted to go.
No, you're right.
So I think he kind of just threw his hands up and took off,
Yeah, he did. I had no idea back in, like, am I yelling? I feel like I'm yelling.
No, man, you're great.
Okay, cool. I feel like I read later, but in my 20s I had no idea. But we didn't have the internet or anything to know all this stuff. I literally thought he might have passed away, and then all of a sudden I found out. I mean, the Matthew Corbett series and stuff like that.
Like, have you read all the Matthew Corbett series?
I have not. I was torn because I was so addicted to his horror stuff. But the longer he's going, because I think he's wrapping it up now, and I'm thinking I got to give that a try.
Dude, just the last book, Leviathan, comes out in December.
Yep.
And the longer the series goes, like, he just can't help himself. He gets back to his horror roots. Like, the story starts this Dickensian historical fiction, and he never loses that. Like, it's amazing. He's such a jack of all trades. He can write so many different things amazingly well. Like, you will see the color of every waistcoat and cravat, and you will hear the footsteps through the crushed shells of the early streets of New York. I mean, it's just all there. It's every sense is tuned into what he's doing. And it's this beautiful historical fiction, this character drama. But as it goes on, he can't help himself, man. Like, this last book is going to be, there's going to be a lot of horror elements to it, because he's got to wrap up what he's started, and he couldn't help himself from putting some stuff in there.
I think that's part of the reason too that I poked you about reading Stephen Black's The Famine Witch.
Oh, I really want to read that.
Much of that, like, when you're reading The Famine Witch, you feel like you're in 1819. I just blanked on it. Ireland.
Oh, I love
Northern Ireland.
I love me some Ireland, man. Is it Irish? Is Irish Dublin?
No, that's Ireland. It's Northern Ireland.
Belfast.
Thank you. I knew it began with a B, and it just right out the. I was literally there.
I know, you just went there.
It was just like, vroom, along with my hair. Not only blew it back, blew it right off.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, that one was. I loved that writing.
I got to get that. I got to get into that. Is he an Irish writer?
Yes, he lives. He actually lives in Belfast, I believe.
Okay, perfect. I got to get into that. They're all such a great tradition of storytelling, right? I mean, you can just feel it when you're there.
Oh yeah, I mean, the only reason I'm hesitant to go back to Ireland, and you know this, roundabouts.
Oh my God.
So many roundabouts.
Yes.
And basically, they say they're 2-lane roads.
Oh, they're a path. It's
And
a
the hedges are so high, you literally can't tell if somebody's coming around a corner.
oh, and what's coming around the corner is a huge tour bus
Or if you're out
coming
in
the other way, and it's a footpath. I'm on a footpath.
yeah,
Like,
if you're
yeah.
not in the big cities too, though, man, it's a lot of farm equipment too.
No.
And
It,
they don't take up their lane.
I had such a blast though, man. I would go back
Oh
in
yeah,
a heart. I would go back in a
gorgeous.
heartbeat. I would
Absolutely
go back in a
gorgeous.
heartbeat for sure. So when you were reading horror in the '80s, did you get into the whole splatterpunk thing? Did you get into?
Not really. I was 80. I mean, the horror thing was a really weird time for me. I would just like pick up random stuff.
Yeah,
Um, Again, young people don't understand. There was no YouTube. There was no internet. There was whatever people put on the shelves at
yeah,
the bookstore.
yeah. See, luckily, I was in LA, in LA, late '80s or early '90s, and found some bookstores there, and you could just I got into like Clive Barker and David Scow and John Skipp and Craig Spector and like Richard Christian Matheson and all these people that were just like wanted to push the envelope and say, historically Gothic story. Well, like what's scary is what you imagine and what you don't see. No, we're gonna show it all. We're gonna hold
Mhm.
nothing back. And I was there for all that. It was such a great time.
I think too, horror for me was different because I don't know if you're the same way. I go through phases.
Sure.
You like my early, like when I was young, I was reading the books that this is going to sound worse than it is, but you'll understand what I mean by this. I was reading the books I wasn't supposed to be reading. I was reading all the
Yeah.
classics.
Yeah.
I was reading Jules Verne and
Oh yeah.
all of that. That's the type of stuff I loved. And then as I got older, I went, like I said, my teenage years, probably because I grew up in a very religious household. I went through a horror phase.
Sure.
And then after that, I was briefly in a fantasy phase. Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman.
See, I missed all that. I missed all that for not being in fantasy, and I was never a big D&D guy.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was aware of it. Like they're doing stories from the D&D universe, and it's like I never really played. So I mean,
Yeah, I don't think you missed anything though, because I was not a D&D guy. I still have not played a D&D game.
Yeah.
We were supposed to have one this year, a couple authors and me, and we've just never. One of them's in England, so we've never managed to get the time.
Oh, that's so hard. Yeah.
But
I mean,
yeah.
all the authors you get on, man. Have you ever tried to track down McCammon? Because that guy's like a ghost.
No, he is very difficult. I've gotten a signed book through Alabama Booksmith from him, and I've talked a little bit to his son because he answers all of his email and stuff. But yeah, he's one of the ones I have not been able to get on yet.
Oh man, if you, I would love to. I know he's going to do a signing at the Alabama store for Leviathan.
Yeah.
And I'm seriously thinking of logging the hours to drive down. I mean, I'll have my copy anyway. I've got it ordered.
Don't blame you, man.
But I mean, there's no other way to really ask the guy, hey, would you be willing to come on and have a chit chat? He's just not easy to track down, you know?
Oh, the hardest one that I managed to get on, or I should say the one that was most difficult, because if I can contact the author directly, a lot of times I don't have an issue. But if I've got to go through somebody, and let's face it,
it's
when
so
you're
hard.
big enough,
Sure.
you can't answer every email.
No, when you have people, and when you have people, it's their job to keep people like us away.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That's their job.
Jim Butcher took me 2 years to get Jim Butcher on.
Oh, are you serious? But you finally got him though, right?
I did, yeah. We had him November.
Dude, how do you get the best? Like, you started at like, tell me the secrets of Twitch. You started on Twitch, right? That's where
I did start on Twitch. Obviously, I'm not this is not the average Twitch face.
Oh, this is not the average. I mean, we're both of us have seen enough life to we should retire to radio if we're going to do anything at all.
As I joke with my wife, once I passed 50, I could say I was middle age up until then, but once you hit 50, the chances of hitting 100 are slim. So
oh yeah,
middle age is probably over.
But I still feel so young. It's crazy.
But yeah, the big thing was I just reached out to him. I won't give too much away because actually Britton asked me if I'd be on his, so I don't know what's going to go on with that. But my start to this, I started with Twitch because a guy that I worked with was a big Twitch streamer.
Oh yeah.
And I thought it would be fun to do on the side. And I started out doing the games and stuff, but Twitch is all gamers.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was surprised you were on there.
Sneak in.
Yeah.
Well, and the gaming thing wasn't doing anything. And yeah, I had fun, but nobody was watching it. And I thought, and this is middle of COVID. It was after 2020, but we're still in the middle of the pandemic. And I'm like, what's not going on Twitch? It's like hardly anybody's doing book stuff.
Yeah.
And I miss, because I used to work at a bookstore before I had my current job.
Oh,
and
nice.
It was the Bookworm here in Omaha. And Bookworm Omaha, anybody who comes through Omaha goes to the Bookworm. Cassandra Clare has been there. Rainbow Rowell, that's kind of her big bookstore. Holly Black came through. Stephen King came through.
Oh man, everybody. Yeah.
If a big book person comes anywhere near Omaha, and not all of them do because it's a flyover state, but if they do, they come there. And I missed being able to see these guys.
Right. I miss LA for the same reason. I miss
William
LA.
Berger always comes down to Nebraska and stops in Omaha every year, just about.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? I know some of these guys. I'll reach out to them. And at first, I kind of had this idea it'd be fun. Let's do a book club because I loved Castle. And I always thought it'd be fun to kind of have that book club. And one of the authors, I talked to Brian Freeman, and Brian Freeman's like, authors don't really want to read books for assignments when they're not writing. So, book club's probably not going to fly. But I've known Brian for a while now. He's from Minnesota. My wife's from Minnesota. One of her favorite authors. We'd actually been out to dinner with him and his wife. So I'm like, let me see if I can do this whole author interview thing. I know Brian will probably say yes. So I don't want to start with that because I don't want to have one author interview and then it's done.
Yeah.
So I decided I'll ask a couple other authors. We'll see what happens. And then if I get a couple more, then I'll ask Brian. Because then, I've got 3. I've got something to start with. So I sent it out to a couple authors that at least might have known my name because I'd reached out to them previously because we were trying to get more fantasy authors to Omaha. And she's been on twice, so I can tease her about this. Freaking Jen Lyons. So Jen Lyons, I emailed her to see if she wanted to be on, and she responded the same day.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I'm like, well, crap. And then I asked Brian, and Brian was good. It's like, well, now it's real.
Yeah, now you can't back out.
Now I got to figure out what I'm going to ask these people.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and I'll tell Britton the same thing if I end up being on his channel. It's like, I did all of this backwards. I did all of YouTube backwards.
I had no plan. But dude, you got a lot of subscribers and stuff. Did they just come over from Twitter? Not Twitter.
Twitch. I mean, I got enough to make affiliate on Twitch, but I've only really got like 100 people, give or take, and they don't show up all the time. All of this, surprisingly, I got a bunch when Shorts came. When Shorts became a thing,
yeah,
that's kind of when I blew up. Some of it was gaming stuff. A lot of it is I started taking the author interviews and making clips out of them.
Right.
Kind of like you and Jacob do with your guys' stuff.
Yeah.
And I have a ridiculously big following from India. I don't know why.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome though, man.
Yeah. So
I'm always shocked. Like Tchaikovsky, like all the people that you get to come on. It's like, man, that's amazing to me that you get all these people.
A lot of it is just reaching out to people.
Yeah.
Because let me face it, it's if some of the ones that I've wanted to get on, if I hadn't had some success, then it would probably be kind of downhill from there.
Sure.
But I've had enough people on now where if somebody can't be on, I don't take it personally. Some of these people have no clue who I am.
Yeah.
Well, there's not a single author who owes me even a phone call.
Right.
much less coming onto the channel. But yeah. But now we're talking about me. You're supposed to be on. We're talking about you.
You're more interesting. I want to know about you. You're more interesting to me.
But I do have one question for you, and I
Hit
know
me.
that I think I know this is a softball, but I'm
Okay,
still going to ask it.
I'll try and
I
hit the
think you're going to know
softball.
where I'm going with this one. I'm going to give you 4 names.
Oh God.
I want you to pick your favorite,
Okay.
and you'll see what the connection is because I know you. Burgess Meredith,
Hmm.
Danny DeVito,
Mm-hmm.
Robin Lord Taylor,
Mm-hmm.
or Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell so far is the best Penguin.
Yep.
Like
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
and I love Danny DeVito. I think Danny DeVito had a great moment. Come on, and Burgess Meredith. That's I mean, that's going all the way back to when I was a kid and parking my butt in front of the TV, in front of the tube, and watching the Biff Pow moments. But no, come on, Colin Farrell. Like that guy is just hitting it out of the park. Like it is phenomenal. He's unrecognizable.
Exactly. I actually just watched the first episode of The Penguin,
Oh, you hadn't seen it.
and I had seen The Batman when it came out. And I knew this, and I still forgot that was Colin Farrell.
Yeah, and I in the movie he's great in the movie. I'm not saying he's not great, but this show with he's number one on the call sheet here. He's got the time and the space to really fill that space with what he's doing. In the film there was so much going on besides his amazing performance. He is just and Christian Milioti too is just phenomenal. Those two together this is something special. They're gonna win every award, man. They're gonna win absolutely every award.
They got to win something, and I'll give it up to dude. This is not just a role for Colin Farrell because that getting that much makeup, it's one thing for a movie.
I think
They
it
have
was
to come
3.
back time and time again for a series.
I saw an interview. He said it was 4 hours a day,
Oh yeah,
and by the end of shooting, they got it down to 2. So, but I mean, you think about it, like if you're shooting, probably, you're shooting at least a 12-hour day, right? At least, and you're number one on the call sheet. You're in every scene. You're never not on camera. So, I mean, it's not like that guy's cooling his heels in the trailer, right, or at craft services, and except when they break for lunch. So the only thing, like, he's got to get there probably at 4 in the morning, maybe 4:35 in the morning to be in makeup and camera ready when everyone else is ready to go. Like he had to have been exhausted by the end of that shoot. Like, it had to be intense.
But the accent and everything, he has nailed that character.
It's so good, dude. It's so good. And it's one thing to have the mask. Like he's got all the prosthetics, and he's got the bodysuit. He's not there anymore. He's gone away. But to actually fill that space between your instrument and the outside of that latex, and then project what you're feeling past that, it's like wearing a frickin' mask and working through the mask. Like it's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
When he laughs, I kind of recognize him around the eyes, and that is it.
And that is it. But the makeup too, like the forehead moves and the crow's feet moves, and it's like
they don't get enough credit. The makeup guys. I didn't realize until a little while ago. Michael Rosenbaum, Tom Welling, you remember those guys from Smallville?
Yeah. Oh yeah, from Smallville.
When I was younger watching that, I thought Rosenbaum just shaved his head.
Oh no, that was probably a cap, right?
It was a cap. Yeah. He's talked about it and having to, because there's a lot of things where he couldn't put on a hat or anything like that, even if it was cold, because they couldn't mess up the makeup.
Sure.
They blended it in. I just thought the guy shaved his head for 10 years, well 7 years, but
I mean, it would make sense. Like if that's your gig for 7 years, it seems like you would take a shortcut. But whatever.
Well, I'm guessing too, though, they probably couldn't. You can't afford a 5 o'clock shadow when the guy's not supposed to have any hair or so.
Sure, that's true. That's true.
But yeah, that's just crazy. I was going to ask you. I know you're a big comic book fan.
Huge.
And we talked about the fact that I feel like Danny DeVito's was he's great, but he's a different Penguin.
Yeah.
Than Colin Farrell is. I feel like Colin Farrell's Penguin matches up with the comic. Have you read the Penguin series that's out right now?
No, I haven't read anything in a while. Well, that's not true. I've read a few things that are kind of off the beaten path. Nothing from the big two. I've read a little bit of the current run of Daredevil, but I read so much DC and so much Batman for so many years.
Hmm.
And I would go in spurts. Like it would start to see like, okay, so we're gonna be doing this story now, and it kind of like revolves, like it's a revolving door. It's like, okay, they're gonna come back around to these types of stories.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know what, every once in a while I'll lag out for a certain number of years and wait for the next inevitable relaunch that'll be coming, and I'll jump back in and I'll see what's going on, because you kind of just get you just kind of get
Yeah.
lulled into a little bit of a sleepwalk when the stories start to revolve. So I've kind of backed out for a while. So I haven't read any major DC stuff in a while.
No, I get that. X-Men kind of lost me when they started doing the Krakoa thing, and then there was all of a sudden where they kept bringing back all the mutants over and over again.
Yeah.
That they lost me for that. But the Chip Zdarsky turn on Batman right now that's going on, and
So I hear really good things.
whoever's doing the Penguin right now, and I forgot, I've done a review for it, and I forgot who wrote it. But the Penguin right now, I think that'd be right up your alley.
I might have to pick it
only
up.
read the first 3 or 4 comics, but it's a much darker. It's a very cool. It's very much like Colin Farrell's Penguin.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of James Tynion stuff, James Tynion horror stuff. So I'm doing that's at DC and Summit at Image, and so I'm kind of following him around because he does great horror stuff. And I mean, as far as comics go, Zach knows he's just made sure that I'm going to get back into some. I know Scott Snyder is back. Scott Snyder had an amazing run. So Zach is pushing me, so I'm going to probably be getting back into manga and some One Piece and stuff. So that's probably going to take some time. But I see this Scott Snyder's back with this. I guess it's the absolute stuff, and it's like they're going to reinvent everything, and it's not. I don't know. I'm a curmudgeonly old man. I like all the classic stuff, and if you redo it, he's not rich. He's, it's like, I don't know.
I didn't see the redoing thing has bitten me in the butt before, because when they did the New 52,
yeah,
I kind of went all in on that.
Me too.
And then
it wasn't great.
No, but it was, I was glad they finally get rid of the underwear on the outside of the pants. But then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, the New 52 didn't really happen.
Right. And it's like that's the thing. Like the relaunch, it's like, okay, this is a relaunch until the next relaunch. That's just how they do.
Yeah. So the New 52 was an unlaunch.
Yeah. So because they just want that number 1 to be back on that cover, because that makes all of us go down to the comic shop.
I saw an interesting interview. Oh my goodness, you're gonna know who I'm talking about, and the name has jumped right on my head. The guy who can't draw feet.
Oh, Rob Liefeld.
Liefeld, yeah. Do you know that was the reason X-Force, Cable and X-Force got rebooted as the number 1? Because when they dragged him away from, I think it was DC at the time, he's like, you promised me a number 1 title. So he did like 99, 100, and then it was over again as a 1.
Yeah.
So that he could have his name on the 1.
Yeah. I'm not surprised. That doesn't surprise me. And then all those guys went to Image and kind of started Image, him and Jim Lee and Silvestri, and that's back. That's back in my heyday, man, when I was running around collecting everything, right? And then
I think I have like almost every Image number 1 from that series. Spawn, you name it.
Yeah, I had all the Spawns. I was big into Spawns.
I had a ton of Spawns.
Yeah, Todd McFarlane. I mean, he does great stuff. Like, I do love his style.
Mm-hmm. Although I
don't
think
know
he's kind of
how great of a writer he is, but I really like his art style.
I liked his art style, but he went kind of Spider-Verse with the whole Spawn thing.
I saw this, and this might make me go back to the comic shop and put some DC titles on my box list. Is Jim Lee is going to be back drawing Batman, and there's going to be new Hush stuff.
Oh, interesting.
So it's like, okay, that might.
See, I think I've got the same problem that you do, in the fact that there's very few titles right now. Of course, it's probably helping my book budget.
Oh,
There's very few
yeah.
titles that have just made me like, I've got to go and get this one.
Yeah. But you know what? Comics are so expensive now, right?
Oh, yeah, on a per page basis?
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Like, and look, I'm not saying like so much work goes in and there's so many creative elements to it and so many people are putting blood, sweat, and tears into every page. Like I get it. I'm not saying those artists that work on it, from the letterers all the way to the inkers to everybody, don't deserve everything they get. But for me, for my budget, like, man, $4 for a regular comic, like $4 if I go to a used bookstore, I can get a full novel for $4.
It's hard to, get 32 pages for $4 when you can get, 500.
Yeah.
Especially these days too, because sometimes, like last time I went, it's like this one's $4 and this one's $6, and now it's like the $4 is like the base minimum anymore.
That is the base minimum now. Yeah, and and you know, right? We remember a quarter.
I think my first comic was like 10 cents, but I think that's more showing how old I am than anything else.
Yeah. Same, man. I remember a quarter and 10 cents. I remember like the DC Giants were like a buck or $2, like $2.50. You could get like a huge. It's like those were the days, man.
I remember, you'll probably remember this one. I remember the first time I read one. They don't do it anymore. They haven't done it in years, but it was a Marvel DC crossover.
Oh yeah.
It was the Hulk and Spider-Man against Superman and Batman, if I remember correctly.
I remember all those crossovers. They used to do that kind of stuff. Man, I can't ever see that happening now. Greg Capullo's great.
I think we have our comic book guru in here today with us.
Yeah, Greg Capullo is great. Like he did, he was the artist on that Scott Snyder Batman run. Like I love me some Capullo, and I think he's done a lot of Spawn work as well.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I owned a comic shop for number of years. So
I have to say I have watched almost all of your videos.
Well, dude, I'm sorry.
Somehow I didn't realize, and I don't know if this is just something that they do or what, but I realized the other day when I was looking through some of your stuff that sometimes when I sort your videos, there's like huge swaths in the middle that are just cut out. And then I refresh and then they show up again. And I'm like, oh, so I finally, yesterday, I watched your very first intro video. Somehow I had missed that.
Oh my God. Hopefully that's one they cut the middle out of.
No, I'm just saying, the fact that they weren't showing up in the list, which is why I hadn't seen them. The video itself not messed up. It's just that I wasn't seeing your videos. I was like, oh, wait, there's ones that don't have the little, red, I've watched this line under
right,
it.
The line, yeah. I mean, I remember that first one. And you know this, right? Like, how long does it take you to figure out what it is you're doing? Took, we would just jump in front of a green screen at my lunch break at work in the beginning, and then I'd hand the stick to Jacob and he'd edit it or do something. And it's like, what we've got to now, where we hang out and talk to each other and stuff. Like, it's so much more fun for us.
Exactly.
And, you just learn so much as you go. Like, what you're going to become is so far away from where you start. That's why people that are interested, I always go like, dude, start right now, because what you're going to learn and what you're going to become and the journey is going to be so amazing, right?
Oh yeah. I had no clue what I was doing when my first interview was Shannon McGuire. This was back in 22. And
that was only on Twitch.
No. Well, what I
here too.
Do, like I said, this is part of how I said I did everything backwards.
Oh, okay.
I used to live stream on Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
And then Twitch only leaves your live streams up for like 2 months, I think. 60 days, the video's gone. So what I did is I live streamed on Twitch. Then I would save it because I was doing it through OBS.
Yeah.
I would also have a recording.
Mm-hmm.
The recording I would clean up a little so it's a little prettier, get rid of some of the ums and pregnant pauses and all that stuff. And then I would just save it to YouTube. And I went probably a year and a half where all YouTube was me saving the author interview.
Really?
I didn't look at the statistics. If you go back to May of last year.
So you were using it just like a cloud. Like
Right.
you were using it just like a storage device.
If you go back to May of last year, was when I finally first started paying attention to YouTube because Twitch
Yeah.
wasn't really doing it for me anymore. 13 subscribers. That's what I had.
Wow. You blew up that fast, man?
But,
I
here's
mean,
my thing,
that's
though. I have subscribers, but dude, you've got way more views and way more watch hours. People sit down and watch your stuff, you and Jacob especially, and it's an event.
well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't look at that stuff honestly, but I hope so. We have a great time. That's all I know.
Oh, you do, but it's
Yeah.
the rapport that you two have.
Well, I mean, he's my kid. He's contractually obligated.
Oh, trust me, I love my son, and he would be great at this, but he's not joining me. He's just
You know what? Let me tell you something, Gryftkin. I thank my lucky stars every day that my kid wants to hang out and do something like this.
Mhm.
Like I feel like I hit the lottery, man.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you know what it's like hanging out with your kid. You know what
Oh
that
yeah,
means.
and don't get me wrong, my son and I do things we hinge it, but he's most of my kids are much more introverted.
Yeah.
They don't want to be in front of the camera, and just like with Tech, Jacob wasn't in front of the camera forever when you started out at first.
Yeah, and he's not crazy about it. You know, he would way rather be directing short films and stuff. Like if he had his dream job. You know.
Yeah. Sounds like he's aiming for it though. I hope he gets it.
I mean, he's very lucky. He does very well. He makes training videos for his day job. And so he kind of uses his degree and he kind of isn't, it's a tough racket, man. And when he was super young, we tried to push him to be any kind of scientist or merit-based job we could think of, And here we were both his mom and I both were like when he was born running a theater company that we were building together, and we were both actively pushing him into, hey buddy, paleontology, that's really something that dinosaurs, look at this, let's look at this book together. We tried everything we could, but there was just no way he wasn't going to go into the arts.
I want you to practice writing your name and put PhD at the end. Got it.
Oh, wouldn't that be? Oh, come on. You know, your kids may be PhDs. I don't know.
Nah. No. They're great kids, though. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, mine is too.
We're very much the fact that, do we think education's important? Yes. Do we think going in $100,000 in debt to put a couple of letters behind your name, long as they're happy, we're okay with that.
Sure. And it's changing so fast. Like the world is changing so fast. And it's almost like you kind of want to get off and just wait and see where everything ends up, before. And these kids don't have that opportunity. They've got to strike now, right? They're young. They've got to start their lives. I do not envy them, man. It is a tough, tough time. So tough. Way tougher than we had it.
Yeah, this is the weirdest time in my life in the fact that I've never been in a time before that seems to have so many people looking for help and so many people out of work at the same time.
Yeah. I think that's true. And even people that are working, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we were young. You would get a job. You could make it. You could get out there. You could get your feet under you. You could put something together. But man, these kids now, even if they have stuff is so food and housing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't just mean stuff, like cool stuff. I want cool stuff. I mean, stuff I need to live and breathe.
Milk.
It's so crazy expensive. Like, it's just so different, man. It is such a different world.
It is. All right. So I got another question for you.
All right, hit me.
This one may start a fight. Sanderson or Hobb?
Oh, that's Hobb.
Okay, just checking.
No, that's Hobb, man. Look, and I'm only 2.5 books in. Oh gosh, I say that now, but see, okay. If I were
you're pulling into the drive. I know you're almost done with your Cosmere catch-up. So
I know. If I were putting an all-time list together, I see what I'm trying to think is right now if I were putting an all-time list together, would Stormlight Archive be above Realm of the Elderlings? And it probably would be right now for me, because I'm only 2.5 books into Realm of the Elderlings. But if I were rating like, which one of these writers do I consider more of a craftsperson that can not only impact me emotionally, but intellectually and like on all these other different levels, I would probably rank Hobb above Sanderson. Although having said that, Sanderson has affected me in all those ways, emotionally and intellectually. I think some of the philosophy, I think the philosophy of Stormlight is overlooked quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, that's a tough category, man. Now when projecting myself forward, when I'm at the end of the Elderlings and I've read all 14 or however many books there are, I'm pretty sure that's going to rate above Stormlight. But then again, who knows? Stormlight, I don't think, it's like you said, I can't call myself middle-aged anymore. I don't think I'm going to finish this next 5 because he's taking this break in between, and, you know, those chonkers take a while to write. So I don't know if I'll see the end of that series. So it's kind of tough. What would you say? Well, how would you rank it?
I have not. I've read a few Sanderson. I haven't read enough of either one to make a decision.
How much Hobb have you read? Are you like me, like in the first trilogy? Oh, you've read one. Yeah. So, but I mean, it's some pretty stuff, man.
But I think one of the things Sanderson has going against him, and there's very few things going against him. This is not shade whatsoever.
The dude's doing well.
When you write that many books in a series, somebody's not going. One of them's going to be not the same level as the other. You can write a really good trilogy, I think, and knock it out of the park. You try to write a really good 25 book series, which I think is where Dresden Files is now. I think this is there's going to be a book somebody doesn't like somewhere.
Sure. And everyone's different, right? So all the different somebodies are gonna not like certain different ones, like different parts. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like I've got Rhythm of War coming up, and I've heard, it's not. It's good. I love Stormlight, but it's like my least favorite because of this and this. And then I've heard people were hitting me up in comments today, going, "Oh man, it hit me so emotionally. Rhythm of War hit me so emotionally. I had to put the book down and take a break." It's like, oh man, I'm all in on this, really. So people are so different, and they approach it so different. So it's tough to tell. But man, that's a tough question, right? Like I think Sanderson, people will say his prose is workmanlike or transparent. Like pick a modifier to describe it, and I think that's somewhat unfair. I think it's easily digestible. I think he's very strategic about how he writes and who he writes for, and he's writing for as massive an audience in a niche genre as he possibly can, right? And he's trying to write some of his concepts are so high. He's not writing stuff in a traditional Western European medieval setting. His concepts are higher. There's some of I think his own ideas of philosophy are injected in there. And there's a lot going on to where he's trying to make it almost like a spoonful of sugar. It slips in all the other stuff he's doing. And sometimes I don't think people look at all the other stuff he's doing. And I think there's a lot there that he's doing. So right now, I mean, just as a series, I would have to probably rank Stormlight higher than Elderlings. But now, where Elderlings will end up, like, I'm on book 3 of the first trilogy. I'm like 400 pages in, and I'm starting to see the glimmerings of where this is maybe going to go by the end of the book. And if it goes there, that is just brutal. Like, oh my, I don't know if it's going to go there or not, but I can't wait to find out.
That's like you talk about, speaking about people being different. For one, I know it's not everybody's favorite. I loved Elantris.
That's what everyone said, don't start there.
It's book 1.
But it's his first published book. I'm such, like, my OCD was like, come on, this is his first book. There's no way I'm not starting with his first book.
Exactly.
So that's the first one I picked up. And you know what? If this is his worst book, like, sign me up. Like, there's so much cool stuff here. There's a nice There's a nice fish out of water story. There's a nice little romantic thread. For me, like the humor, it works for me. Some people say his humor doesn't work.
Uh,
I don't have an issue with it. I thought it worked fine. And then the other thing is like I love this theme of all the answers are in the past lore. You've got to delve into it. Like in this wretched zombified city where they've pushed all these weirdly afflicted people into, and it's almost like an Escape to New York situation where there's like fiefdoms being set up inside this city of who's going to control it for the resources and stuff. It's like I thought it was just chock full of great cool ideas and cool stuff. And then at the end, like when they're getting into that secret library at the end and getting all the answers, it's like this is like fun as hell, man. Like what is the problem?
Oh yeah, I can't even remember the characters' names now either, but the main character is like I loved his storyline.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Me too. And I can't remember, old man brain. But he's supposed to be going back to that.
Brandon does have quite a few characters over the course of 20-something books.
Oh my gosh, I don't know how he does it. And the weird thing is that I think he loves the craft so much, right? And I think he loves writing so much that in his downtime, like these secret projects, I think he fills his downtime with work. But I think that's his love. I think he wants to be as close to special as he can possibly be. So he spends his downtime doing these secret projects because he's just experimenting and trying to stretch himself to be better. And then he ends up sharing it all with us so we can kind of pull the curtain back a little bit and see what's going on with him, which is really cool. A really cool artist journey kind of thing to see, right? I just, and dude, I mean, come on. You and I are both on the tube. Like we know, like this guy's freaking Barnum and Bailey. Like he can advertise himself like nobody's business. He's great with the fans, with his outreach, what he does. Like he's unmatched in that way.
Although he still hasn't been on the channel, and I got to mark him down just a little.
I'm pretty convinced he doesn't know I exist, or I can't speak for you, but I'm positive he doesn't know I exist.
No, I know that whoever answers his email knows that he told me no, but
So you actually got a response?
Yeah, I reached out.
Yeah,
See, I mean, you talk about the fact that I get so many people on, but I also ask a lot of people.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I think, you've blown up in a short amount of time, like I was saying, but it's like, I think you got to be, because he has his own channel. I think for him to do outreach, you've got to be like a Petrick or a Bookborn or a Daniel Green, like, Daniel, like.
Maybe Big Mike.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he's ever been on Big Mike's channel either.
Yeah, I don't know. Mike is, and I was going to talk to you about this if this was yours too. Mike was my, I call him my gateway drug to BookTube.
Absolutely.
Because that was the point when I finally started paying attention to YouTube. And I was like, what's everybody else doing? Because like I said, all I had been doing was putting up copies of my videos.
Yeah.
And ignoring it.
Yeah.
So I think I found, if Mike wasn't the first one I found, he was the first big one I found.
Yeah.
And from Mike led me to Petrick and Murphy and you, and just all those other guys. So Mike was my gateway drug to BookTube.
Yeah, same. Like I said, I was reading. I had my favorite authors, and I would, look. We're from the same world, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, I want something new to read. I'll Google best horror of whatever year it is.
Yep.
Here's the GQ list. Here's the USA Today list. Here's NPR's list. And I would read through, and it's like, these sound interesting. I'll pick 3, and I'll go grab them, and I'll come back, and I'll read 1 or 2, and I go, wow. It's like I'm reading a different book than what was described. This is not hitting me the way I wanted it to. So it's like, I've heard this thing kind of about BookTube. So I Googled horror, fantasy, sci-fi BookTube.
Mm-hmm.
Mike's the first name that came up. So I clicked on that, and that was my absolute first moment of BookTube. And from that time on, I was like, okay, these sound really interesting. Sun Eater, I have never heard of that. Brandon Sanderson, Joe Abercrombie, like all these, John Gwynn, like some I still haven't got to, right? That sounds amazing. So it's like I started reading some of those, and it's like, okay, this is what I want. This is hitting the way I was hoping it would hit, right?
Yep.
But yeah, he was absolutely the gateway drug. And it's like, it was when I wanted to, it's like, man, I would love to get in on some of these discussions and conversations, right? So, didn't it help you that Mike was like, okay, well, this is not just a kid's game. Like when I think of YouTube, I thought, it's a kid's game, like I don't belong on this. I have no spot for this. There's no spot for me. But then when I saw Mike, it's like, you know what? I connect with this guy who's been around the block a few times, and I'm liking his suggestions and stuff. Like I would love to join the conversation, and he's not a kid, so maybe. And then I saw Dr. Chase, and I saw, and there are a lot of kids out there, but I saw some older people, Brian Durfee, and and I was like, maybe I could try this. I could give it a shot. I mean, did that kind of hit you as well? Like when you saw, it's not just a kid's game.
I don't know if that hit me so much in the fact because I was already on YouTube.
There you go. Yeah.
Except remember, I did it backwards. Most people they hop on, they talk about their books, then they invite authors on, and I kind of went completely the other way around.
Yeah, yeah.
But some of the stuff that Mike was reading and stuff like that, those were the types of books I was interested in too, and I love the fact that it was, I loved horror. I hadn't read a lot of it in a while because, again, I go through, I'd gone through another classics phase, I'd gone through a business books phase, I'd gone through, I was back to my fantasy and a little bit of sci-fi, but mainly fantasy phase. And so talking about the books I'd read, and then I think I told you this one time, I thought it was kind of funny. I started seeing all these other authors that is like, oh man, I never heard of this guy before. I never heard of this person before.
Yeah.
And one of the ones that I wanted to read, and I still haven't gotten to him yet, but I was like, man, everybody's talking about this Rockio guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I would love to read Rockio. And then we moved. And as I'm moving and I'm taking my 12 boxes of TBR from one place to the other, I open one up and I've got 2 Rockio books in hardcover that apparently I'd probably picked up on sale somewhere and was like, oh, this sounds interesting. I'm going to get to this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just, he's in my TBR pile.
Have you got to him yet? Have
No.
you picked it up yet? Oh, man.
No, because I found him when we moved here, which is we finished moving in, I think, in July, maybe August. August 3rd, I think, is when we finally moved in. I'm going to try to catch up on some stuff. I'm waiting to hear back from somebody about November. Other than that, I'm thinking about taking December off from author interviews just to do some reading.
Oh man, that sounds awesome. I mean, holidays are the perfect time too.
Yeah. Plus, I've always felt like, I don't want to bug an author. I mean, I know authors have stuff drop during the holidays.
Oh yeah,
but that doesn't mean they necessarily
that's tough
want
to reach out and shake somebody's tree during the holidays, right? Like
exactly.
Yeah, I know you're carving a bird, but really, if you got any time, I'd love to ask you 5 questions. Yeah. I don't know, man. Like I when people come on my channel and talk to me, I'm just continually shocked.
I definitely was early on. Trust me. I've been doing this almost 3 years now, so it's a little less shocking because at least now I have a bit of a body of work.
Yeah, and they can check it out, right? You can say,
and I'm not monetized, so I know you can't show it on your channel, but I've got that little trailer that pops up when people on, and it's got music on it, so nobody else can see it. But like my wife told me, is like, nobody can see the authors in your trailer. I'm like, my trailer is just to point out to people that when authors come on, they have a good time. They're smiling, they're laughing.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what I try to bring to it, that they're not going to get. I mean, yeah, some of these guys can go on the Today Show and get 5 minutes to talk about their book and reach millions of people. They can come on mine and, talk for an hour in depth about writing, about anything they want to talk about. That's what I'm trying to bring to the table.
Yeah, and it's amazing, right? But I mean, I'm just shocked and stunned. Like when Jonathan Mayberry came on my channel and talked to me, it's like I can't. I've been reading this dude for decades, and
Mhm.
to hang out for a while and talk to him. Do you have like who would be your like Mount Rushmore? Like who have you knocked out on that you would love to?
The first one for me is going to be, it's not going to be obvious to everybody because this may not seem like the type of books I read, but I absolutely adore her. V.E. Schwab.
Oh,
She is
yeah.
my holy grail at this point in time.
Have you tried?
We have been talking back and forth since before I started doing a channel. She is just, especially once The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue came out,
Yeah.
she blew up.
Oh, that book is beautiful.
Yeah, and she is so. We've talked about it. We just have never. She's never told me no, but we
Yeah.
haven't gotten around to it yet either. I'm hoping for next year. I don't not holding her to it,
No, 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 no.
but I'm hoping
This
for
is
next year.
this is all wish. This is all
Yeah,
wishes and dreams. Yeah.
she would. I would love to have her on. I would love to have Margaret Weiss on, but respectfully, Margaret Weiss and I have talked, and she just doesn't want to do this type of thing much. It's not her spiel,
I get it.
which I'm fine with. But I'm just saying, if we're going to give a Mount Rushmore, I want Margaret to know she's on it.
Yeah. Sure.
Um, Not in this genre, but I have been a Barry Eiler fan for
Mm.
years. I don't know if they did like Hard Rain was turned into a movie.
Mm-hmm.
He does
Mm-hmm.
the whole John Rain series. Love that series. Uh, because I'm getting down to the fourth one. I don't know who I'd want that to be right now. Um, yeah, I'm not sure I'd put on that fourth one just yet. Well, McCammon, obviously. That would
I
probably
mean, I'd love to talk to McCammon and Stephen King. Like if we're just dreaming. But I
yes.
mean, he's got a lot of people employed to keep me away from him.
I would love to talk to King too, but if I had to pick between the two of them, as I tell everybody, my favorite two books, and it's kind of a 1A, 1B thing, and one of them's not King, believe it or not, but he's still up there. Uh, Actually, Count of Monte Cristo by Dumas.
Oh,
That
that's
is my
so
number one
yeah.
favorite book, and Swan Song is right behind it.
Dude, if you like Count of Monte Cristo, you are going to. There's moments of Matthew Corbett that are like, oh my God, that's Man in the Iron Mask. Like there's
Mhm.
just moments in this that are like little glowing, glistening moments from classics that he kind of
Yeah.
reworks and put his modern spin on, even though he's writing in such a beautiful Dickensian style, right? Oh, you're gonna so love this series when you get started.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to start it, but I'm at the point now. I was looking the other day because I was looking at what's on my Kindle and what's on my audiobook list, and if I combine it with my physical list, I've probably got 15 to 1600 books
Oh,
in my
I'm
TBR.
out. It's out of control, right? Like I honestly, I don't even look. I try not to look. Like I look when I'm trying to put months together. Like,
Mhm.
okay, I've got to read this for a buddy read and this. Maybe I got a slot for one, and I start to look through and trying to find, what what catches my eye at the moment. Other than that, I try not to look because it's overwhelming sometimes, right?
Oh yeah, like that was actually one of my questions for you. I hadn't gotten to it yet, but
Yeah.
how do you decide your TBR? I just watched your TBR from this morning.
I mean, the weirdest thing. Okay, let me answer my own question first, and I'll come back to that because my Mount Rushmore. Like, first of all, like I say, I'm shocked. I spoke to Mayberry. I spoke to Janny Wirtz. Like, these people shouldn't talk to me. Like, they have no reason to talk to me, right? I don't know if you feel like
You
that,
talked to
but I
Rocky
do.
or Dad.
I talked to Rockio's dad. Not only did I talk to Rockio's dad, like he'll comment on the channel and stuff. Like Christopher Rockio will send me an email now going, "Hey, my dad said something happened on your channel. I should check out." And I don't know why my dad's watching your channel because my dad doesn't read this stuff. It's like it's unbelievable.
Well, welcome to the channel, Aaron.
Yeah. I'm gonna say okay, but I'm always shocked that people talk to me. Look, Stephen King and Robert McCammon are gonna be up there, right? Like no doubt.
Not surprised.
Because just since junior high. Gosh, who else would I absolutely? I mean, right now, Robin Hobb. I would love to talk to Robin Hobb, And I'll throw Brandon Sanderson out there. I think those are the two. Oh, but what about Joe Abercrombie? He would be amazing to talk to because I just think he's a hilarious human being.
Gotcha. Yeah, some of the ones.
What else did you ask me? How do I put my TBR together?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go and then you go. You can tell me how you do it because I'm always looking for tips. I mean, kind of like that, like my TBR now is kind of like, and this is people won't understand. Heidi, I'm so sorry. I'm the absolute worst at social media. I don't know what I'm doing. I am so sorry. You're absolutely right.
Jacob wasn't there. We'll blame Jacob.
Jacob moved out, and this whole ship goes down. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry, Edward. So Heidi's always letting me know Heidi's always letting me know I should have done better. I'm so sorry. So I kind of like that I have very little control over my TBR because I find that my reads are better. Like if I have something my wife chooses for book club with the missus, and I have something that my Patreons vote on, and I have like a Cosmere catch-up that, I've got to get that in there, and I have this buddy read going on, because that's the funnest thing about this is being able to talk to other people when you read something with them. That's close to a full month, depending on how thick those books are.
Oh, yeah.
So after that, I'll just come poking around and seeing, hey, what's in here? What do I have that I've kind of been wanting to, I want to get back to Sun Eater. I'll grab that this month, But I don't have a lot of slots to do that with, and I kind of like it that way. I really do. I'm a lot happier now than I was in my reading journey because, Zach, please, Zach. Zach is the best human in the world. He takes such good care of me on Discord and everywhere else. But so
he's almost been a third guest at this point.
Right? Like I feel like we should just loop him in. But my reads are so much better now that I'm not in control. Like how do you do it? What do you find? And do you find I'm interviewing this author? I got to read that.
Right. A lot of my stuff is kind of like yours. Obviously, you know me. I don't always get it, but I try to do one author a month, which means I've got a built-in book there.
Yeah.
That's one decision I don't have to make. I got behind with the move and everything, but I've also done the community polls. What should I read? And they have not steered me wrong yet. My first one was The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter, which I absolutely loved.
Oh, I haven't got into that yet.
And then the second one I'm reading right now because I got way behind on it is A Good Family by A.H. Kim, which I actually managed to pick up when she was here at the Bookworm in town. So that was kind of cool. That's a signed copy.
Nice.
So, I do that. I'm usually trying to catch up on an arc either that an author has sent me or NetGalley or a publisher, whatever. So that's usually 3 right there. Yeah. And then there's usually a fourth one. It's either something I want to read or something that I had to stop reading because I got an author event coming up or something and I got to get back. I've been reading Glass House by Paul Jessup for like 6 months now. It's because I started and I really liked how it started, but then something keeps calling me back.
Look, this guy will help us out. Someone call for someone to highlight John's mishap. Yes, that's you, Brian.
Speaking of Minnesotans, we did cover Minnesota earlier.
Oh, we talked about Brian for the first hour.
Yeah.
That'll just make sure he catches it on replay.
No, but like I said, Brian's another one of those guys. I started with Mike, led me to Patrick, led me to you, led me to Brian.
Yeah, Brian's there's so many people that are just being part of this community is such a rich privilege and a party, right? Like I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel like, and I still feel like I don't, but it's like that weird Sesame Street song. One of these things is not like the other. Like I still have like weeks will go by and it's like, what am I doing? I can't believe that I, get to hang out with some of these. Like I have no clue what's going on. Like just ask Heidi. Absolutely. I should, I'm not good at this. I should not be doing this. And still, for some reason, I just get to have the most fun. It's unbelievable.
Well, I'm kind of like you. Is like the ones that I've met before or have come back on, like Jen Lyons has been on twice. You start to get that little bit of familiarity. Paul Jessup's been on 3 times. Brian Freeman, William Kent Kruger, I knew previously.
Yeah.
But then there's some like, I had Martha Wells, I had Jim Butcher, and some of those, I mean, I've told you before, I'm very extroverted and I can talk about anything. So maybe it doesn't always feel like that. But when it's like, let's say it starts at 7, if it's 6:59 and, uh, he's not been on, so because I don't want to make it sound like I'm picking somebody else. So it's like James Patterson, who hasn't been on.
Yeah.
But 6:59 and Patterson's not on yet, and I'm starting to go like, did he forget? Is it going to be on? I don't know.
Oh yeah, that sure.
Am I going to forget every question, even though I've got notes? If I'm going to forget every question I thought of.
Yeah. No, that goes through me all the time. Like, oh man, they're not here yet. They probably don't want to talk to me. It's like they probably
after about question 2, I'm relaxed. I try to be a better interviewer because when I started this, again, this was 2.5 years ago, and this was my replacement for the fact that no authors during the middle of COVID were doing author.
Oh, you couldn't go out, right? Sure.
So it was just a chat.
Yeah.
I mean, if you watch the Shauna McGuire one, I sit down, we just start talking. I start talking to her about, because I knew she was a big My Little Pony fan, and she just got one that she really wanted. So we're just chatting. And I think it was when I got to the Martha Wells one, because I love Murderbot. Absolutely love Murderbot. I know it's not for everybody, but
yeah,
my jam.
Doesn't. I read the first book, didn't grab me.
Yeah, but somebody posted in the thing afterwards, because again, I did it live and then it was saved to YouTube, and somebody posted, I wished I'd had more Martha and less Gryftkin. Because it was very much a 50-50.
Yeah.
And don't take me wrong, I was not offended by that because I had no idea what I was doing when I started.
Sure. Yeah.
I was just sitting down with authors and chatting and having fun, and I thought I'd share it with everybody else. After the Martha one, that's when I started having like certain questions. Every author you see me ask now, my first question for them is, what is your supervillain origin story? Which basically means, why did you become an author?
Yeah. And my thing is like, I think I've gotten the same feedback on some authors I've talked to because I'm so excited to talk to them. And it's like, I didn't go to school for this. I don't know how, I'm not I'll be the first one to say, I've got a world to learn about being a good interviewer, and I'll take any criticism I can get because I'll try to internalize it and be better the next time.
Yeah. Although I got to admit, maybe I don't know what you find when you do it. Like even now, I start with a list of questions.
Sure.
In case everything goes flat.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter who it is. Kate Elliott, Josh Mallerman, Paul Jessup. Oh my goodness. Once we start talking, sometimes the questions go by the wayside because they bring up something is like, oh, I want to know more about that.
Sure.
That is way more interesting than what I.
Yeah. The same. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't do that. I don't know. Brian, I get to maybe 25-30% of questions. Yeah, it's so hard, man. Although Brian is the king of research, he gets a question like he has pages of questions.
Well, Aaron, I'm going to tell you to talk to Zach because he's got all of the possible comic book stories there.
No, Zach is king.
Speaking of weird facts, I don't think they're going to sue us for this, but did you realize that Marvel and DC have a co-copyright to the term supervillain?
And superhero that they just lost.
Yeah, they lost superhero. They still have supervillains and superheroes, plural. Although I don't think they're going to try to enforce it since they lost the superhero one.
I mean, superheroes, plural. I mean, that's, we're nitpicking now.
Nice.
But I think...
Or the rest of us, Aaron.
Yeah, if you lose superhero, and you know what? At this point, I think it's baked into the cake. We all know. They don't need that. They can let that go. Like let everybody.
If you're picking up an Image comic, you still know who the supervillain is.
Yeah, let everybody play. Like that's just silly.
Oh man, reminds me of like G.I. Joe had to start renaming some of the characters because they realized that they couldn't copyright rock and roll.
Oh my gosh, are you serious? Do you remember G.I. Joe when it was like this?
I wasn't into it when it was that size. I do know that it was that size.
Oh, I was into it.
It was like I think 83 or 84 when the 3 and 3/4 inch figures came out. That's when I got into it.
No, man, I was like this. I was this guy, and I had the Jeep with the Egypt mission where they would pull the Jeep had the winch to pull the mummy sarcophagus out of the sand, and oh, dude, I had all that stuff.
I didn't have the GI Joe, but what I did have was the $6 million man.
Oh, I had that as well.
You could look through the back, so it'd see the
You
little
could look through the back of
target
his
through
head,
his
so
eye.
you could see his eye. Yeah.
Roll up the skin on his
You
arm.
roll the skin up so you could take the cybernetic parts out. Oh yeah,
Yep.
man, I had that as well. I was big into that. I would spend hours making up stories and stuff, right?
Oh.
I had the entire Star Trek crew. I had all that.
I didn't have a lot of because they were more expensive. I didn't have a lot of the Jeeps and all that other stuff. But man, my GI Joes spent a lot of time in shoebox dioramas.
Yeah. Yeah, I had
To cut those up, make my own like 2-story buildings and everything else.
I had so many. That was my jam when I was a kid. That was
What ticks me off, because I didn't know, I was 9, 10 years old. I didn't know they'd be worth something at some point. At one point in time, because I remember when I got the final one, I had one of each of the original Kenner's Star Wars figures, that first line.
oh. But were
Whatever
they
year
still in
they
the
came
box?
out. Yeah, they weren't in the box. They were
No.
played with.
I think I had all those as well. The ones where the little
The
switch in the
lightsaber?
arm would pull the lightsaber out and
Yep.
all that. Yeah.
Had the
I
little
had
tap.
I had all those as well, but it's like, oh, they were so well loved and played with. There's no way I would have been able to do anything with those on the resale market.
No. It's just still, it's like, man, it's like, who knew? Who knew this was going to be
No one.
a thing?
Yeah, absolutely no one. We
I
had
got
the
rid
best
of my.
toys.
I didn't have the first one, but I remember having issue 2 of the GI Joe comics.
Oh,
Got rid of that when I was a kid.
now comics I always took care of. Like I don't know why. I just knew. I always kept good care of my comics.
Look at him bragging.
Oh, Aaron. Never sell, Aaron.
TMNT. Oh man, I loved them back before they went to space. I think when they had they lost me with the dinosaurs and all that other stuff.
I never got it. That was kind of after my time of watching cartoons and stuff. And I left comics for a good chunk of time when I was trying to make my way in LA. So it was just that moment where that's like a dead zone moment for me of pop culture. I didn't catch all that. Movies
Speaking
and
of your
everything.
time in
I was
LA,
catching.
I still don't think I found the frame with you as the bellhop or whatever. And
Oh, dude, you'll never find that.
was it General Hospital? I'm trying to remember. Yeah.
Yeah, it was General Hospital. I mean, I was like that long. Yeah, and I have other things that I'll never say the name of because they're just horrible. And
Hey,
luckily,
but you got them.
luckily, or do I? Because luckily they're credited to somebody else on IMDb,
I got you. So that's why
So-
I can't find you.
which is fine with me.
Looks like a small world thing. There was a lady that worked with me at the Bookworm whose husband, and again, he wasn't an actor, he was a cop at the time, but he ended up, because they needed a cop, he ended up being in a very, very small, brief snippet of Tu Wong Fu.
Oh,
He was one of the cops that pulls them over.
yeah.
So he's got his acting credit.
There you go, man. Like I did. I got my union card, got my credits, and yeah, no. Brian actually hit me up the other day. It's like, do you know you have like the same name as this guy? It's like, oh no, I'm thankful to him because some of my most embarrassing things are under his name.
Oh, so much fun, so much fun. So, getting to another question then. Obviously,
Yep.
we've already discussed the fact that I did YouTube completely backwards. What priorities do you have, if any, on BookTube? Do you even like care, but like do you check your numbers? Like Mike always says the thing where he does like the channel update and stuff.
Yeah, although
Do
I
you
think
look
he
at that at all,
stopped
or is that
lately.
just all Jake? Jacob.
Jacob will every once in a while let me know something. Like Jacob check, and I don't think he obsessively checks. Like he doesn't. I wouldn't even say it's a weekly thing where he'll tell me something. It's like, do you know we did this? Like maybe once every, I don't know, a couple weeks, 10 days, he'll tell me something. Um, or I'll get somebody will say, "Hey, congrats on something on Twitter or something," you know. But we make a video. Like I come in and I set this up and I talk to Jay. We make a video. Um, I don't watch our videos. I don't like.
We don't have time.
Well, you know how it is. Like, I don't like the way I sound. I don't like the way I look. I don't like, why are you doing that? You look like a doofus. You know, like I don't watch them back. Like, I don't watch my videos. And I know Brian, I know other people do. It's like, how are you going to get better if you, it's like, it's painful for me. I just don't do it. So I don't see the numbers that way as far as views or stuff like that. And early on, I would check, like I would say, oh, like, let's look at, you know, how's this doing or what's that's going on. And it's like, it would really, you know, because you think when you've got 5 subscribers, you know, and you lose 1 or 2, you're like, what did I do? You know, did I say something? Like, what happened? You know, like,
Oh, yeah.
so it's like I was going through that at the beginning. So I really kind of decided very early on, like, I can't do that. I can't track that or stay on top of it and look at it real close. Like, I love comments. I love talking to people. I love hanging out with people. I think I'll always probably try and, I mean, I don't know, however big I'll always try and answer every comment as soon as they come in, because that's the reason why, that's what I'm doing. You know, like, I'm doing it for that. Everything else is somewhat really out of our control, right? Like, people will say, I've talked to other booktubers and they're like, oh, well, if you talk about, you know, lists get way more views because you're talking about a lot of books. And if you're talking about one book, it's like, well, I'm not going to stop doing book club with the missus, because that's one of the funnest things I do is come up here with Amy and talk about a book for an hour or something. Like, that's a blast to me. I don't, if that gets fewer views or whatever, like, I don't want to care. It's not, I'm never going to base what I'm doing on numbers like that. It's just, I don't want that to be part of the equation for me, if that makes sense. And I'm not even sure if that's a question you asked.
No. I mean, it was a question to Jason. That was a very broad question that you are more than welcome to answer any way that you want.
Yeah. So what
I
is
think
it like
you've got
for you?
one thing going for you is the fact that Jake. Why do I keep calling him Jake? I have a brother-in-law named Jake. It's Jacob. I'm sure he doesn't like to be shortened to Jake.
He doesn't care.
Well, I try to be at least respectful for names. But Jacob gets, he does all the editing for you and stuff afterwards. Yeah. For guys like Brian and I, who do our own videos, it's like, we're gonna have to watch ourselves, because when we go to edit it, anything that's not live, I've got to edit, and I get to watch myself 4 or 5 times.
Right.
And when I start,
like, you don't have a choice.
My ums or my uhs.
Yeah. Like that. For me, it's like, I don't. Oh God, it would drive me straight up a wall. Like, I don't know how you guys do it. I don't know how you guys can possibly put that much time and that much work in. Like, I've talked to Brian about how he puts together the videos and how much time it takes and the commitment that is. And it's like, oh my gosh, if I was a one-man band, I just don't see the feasibility of doing it.
Oh, yeah.
You know? So
I don't know how Brian does it either.
Oh my gosh. Like, I sit here and I talk to Jacob for 20, 30, 40, you know, whatever it is. And we should probably, I don't know why we talk so long sometimes. Well, because I enjoy talking to my kid. Honestly, I guess that's what happens. And then I upload it to him in a file. And then, like, we do that in an evening, and the next morning he throws it out there. Like, he doesn't do a lot of editing. He doesn't angst over a bunch of stuff either. But if I was having to watch it, all the time, I don't know how you guys do it. I am, Brian. I absolutely am.
Well, like me, when I started, I was just doing the author interviews. So for me, editing, I take like an hour video, and after getting rid of all the ums and repeats and all that stuff, you get it down to about like 40 minutes, 40, 50 minutes. So you cut a bunch of stuff out. But now, I think part of the reason I like doing the live interviews with my authors is because I don't have to edit it when I'm done. Because YouTube, it
Yeah.
goes out there and it's
And
whatever
you're
happened to
and you're
happen.
done. Right. I've got content. It's out there. Yeah. It's awesome.
I had
I
to.
love lives because I love talking to people too. I mean, it's so amazing. Other booktubers, authors, I mean, other readers, whatever. It's just an absolute blast.
I had to tease Paul Jessup the other day because our third time he was on for an author interview, and then he was on for a buddy read. That's the only buddy read I've done so far. And then we did the horror recommendations for Halloween video, and that one came in at less than 2 hours. And so I was teasing him. I was like, "We can't be friends anymore because it just keeps getting shorter. We just don't want to talk to each other anymore." But,
Either that, or you guys are just getting finely honed.
no, that's the thing is like, I do so much fantasy and sci-fi, but I've always found that the horror authors, Ian Rogers, Mallerman, uh, I'm just brain down. I'm picturing him, Nat Cassidy, all those guys. Those are the guys that we get done, and like some of them I talk for another half hour. I talked to one of them one time 90 minutes after the interview was over.
Wow.
Just because we're just chatting, and it's worse than sometimes you can also talk about things that you don't want recorded and out there for your publisher or whatever to see.
Sure.
But those guys, those are some of the chillest people. The horror authors, the ones you think would be a little crazy,
Yeah.
they're just chill.
Yeah. So I mean, what are you like? I mean, do you watch the numbers real close? Do you try and chase the algorithm and that kind of thing?
I watched it for a little bit when I finally decided to start taking it seriously. That's kind of how I know that when I started doing the shorts is
Mhm.
when my numbers kind of really blew up. But then I also kind of chilled because I'm at the point now, like I don't always know what's going to happen. The one that seems to be hanging on the longest for me, like the Jim Butcher interview.
Oh, he's
That
huge.
one is
Yeah.
the one that still every once in a while out of nowhere just gets me views.
Yeah.
And it's been up there almost a year.
Yeah.
Other
That doesn't
ones
surprise
like
me at all.
Martha Wells was big when it first came out, and then pretty much nothing. My book reviews don't get much, although the last one I did, for whatever reason, the ML Rio novella that just came out,
Hmm.
that one's gotten, I think it's getting close to 200 views, which for me, at my size, for a book review, is huge.
Yeah, that's great.
My
I
book
mean
reviews get
that.
like tens of views.
Yeah. I mean, I have no idea. I haven't done a book review in a while, but we just run out of time sometimes. But I mean, I cover everything I read every Sunday, and then
Oh,
for the monthly catch up too. And I try to go pretty in depth to how I feel, how they hit me. But I mean, like I say, I'll do book club with the missus, or just I'll focus on one book because I just dig that.
mhm.
I would never stop that. I don't
I feel
think.
like I'm kind of where you're at though, as to where I'm at the point right now. Like I'm not monetized, which is fine. I don't have a
Yeah.
problem with that. First of all, allows me to do some things that I can't do if I was worried about being monetized. But B, I just enjoy doing this. I get authors to come on and talk to me. I got you to come on and talk to me.
Well, dude, we talk all the time.
We do, but not
I
like
mean, we
that.
DM me. You crack me up all the time. You DM me this or send me that, or you're hilarious.
But yeah,
I mean,
I would
there
do
was
this
no
for the fun
shock
of
that
it.
I was going to come on. I mean, I've been looking forward to this all day, all week to talk to you.
Well, which I appreciate. I'm glad to have you on here. You still have a much nicer background than I do. I can say that. Holy
That's
crap!
because I got more room in here. It looks like you're in very close quarters there.
Well, it is a little bit because I am in a spare. I can't say bedroom because it's in the basement and there's no exit, so it's an office. But yeah, it's away from the wife. She doesn't have
Yeah.
to hear it.
We have room because our kid moved out.
Gotcha. But yeah, I also kind of like the coziness of it. This I don't need that much room. I don't know
Yeah.
if you. I'm not going to do it. I don't know if you are ever going to pan around to see what your room looks like. But this here, you get the nice little bookshelf, which my wife still doesn't understand it because I got this bookshelf and there's only this many books on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I told her that's the whole fun of it. I put a different book here every video, and they
Yeah.
just keep going
They
just to
just
see who
rotate.
notices.
Yeah, we are gonna pan we do a shelf tour. I think it's coming out next week. So we get we go, because people have asked what's that on your shelf, because it's pretty dark back there. So we're gonna do a little shelf tour, and I think Jacob sits in my chair and points the camera that way. And
By the way, I see it behind you. Your video talked me into it. My mom loves her dragon.
oh, good, that's awesome.
So
Yeah, they're super cool, right?
they are.
Yeah,
I didn't get to see it. I just had it because she lives more than a state away. I just had it shipped directly to her. But that one, she loved it.
yeah, excellent. Yeah, no, that's my brother-in-law. Does crazy stuff like that. Brian.
Yeah, my wife doesn't mind that I do this, and she's a huge reader. But like, she can't even listen to like podcasts. She doesn't like listening to people talk. She doesn't mind listening to them sing.
Yeah,
But she doesn't want. Well, she's married to me, so she's probably tired of listening to people talk.
that's probably it's probably just fatigue.
She's
So
like,
I
I'm
mean,
not
why don't?
watching you. I hear you all the time anyhow.
Yeah. So why don't you get book club with the missus going with her? Get if she reads a lot.
Oh, man, it's tempting. She again, my children get their introvertedness away from her,
Oh.
so I don't think she really want to be on the camera. In fact, I think I've gotten her to say something off camera for a bit one time on Instagram, but that or TikTok. That was just for fun. But she actually doesn't really like her face out there.
Yeah.
And I don't know. My wife and I have. Listen to where I'm going with this. We have it of cheating on each other. Where
Wait, what? Start over.
I was going to watch that, or I was going to read that, and then you did it without
yeah.
me.
Yeah.
So we're never reading the same thing at the same time.
We used to go through that all the time. We finally gave up. But the cool thing is
donated that I wanted to read.
the cool thing is now we kind of read the same thing once a month, and it's really cool. It's been a lot of fun. And it's been nice for Amy because she's constantly telling me, you should read this. It's really good. You should really. And now, I'm pushed to do it, which she's always right. It always is really good. She's one of the smartest people I know in the world. And she just, she is my favorite writer in the world. Like she's phenomenal.
Gotcha.
So, when she tells me something is really good, she's extremely, very rarely wrong. So I should have been listening to her all along. But it's been a lot of fun, man. It's really, truly been awesome.
Yeah, my wife I had definitely have some overlaps in what we like. She's a big mystery person.
No, there you go.
She probably wouldn't do horror, but neither one of us like romantasy too much, so I don't have to worry about that.
I used to read that before it was called romantasy.
See, I don't mind romance in fantasy. Like, I absolutely loved the Cinder Spire series by Jim Butcher.
Yeah, I haven't read book 2 yet.
There's romance in it, but it's not what I would consider a romantasy.
I have to read book 2, but I agree with you. And there's a lot of romance in Brandon Sanderson. He's a romantic dude. He always has a lot of romance. But there was a series called the Angel series by Sharon Shin. I can't remember when this came out. It was way back in the day. And oh my gosh, I loved it. And it was it was full on romance. It was a fantasy sci-fi type setting. But it was, and I was so keyed into that series. I don't know how you know what? When I was young, it was all about covers, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was all about covers. You go to the bookstore, it's like, that looks cool. Okay. That was everything because you didn't have BookTube or anything else. Yeah, what is that, man?
The Last Dragon on Mars.
Oh, that is a cool
It's just
cover.
gorgeous.
That is a cool cover.
That's the other reason I got. What was the other one? Do I have it up here? I saw this as an ebook, and then when I found out it was coming in as a physical book, I'm like, no, I have to have that cover on my shelf.
Oh, that's
Way of the
really
Wizard
cool.
by, I'm assuming it's Michael.
I think it's Michael Michel.
Could be Michael Michel. If it is, I apologize, Michael. But there's a few on here where it's just like the cover just grabbed me.
Did you read Bloodstones yet? That's up there.
No. That's one of those ones I'm going to try to get to.
It's so good.
I'm telling you, this is what BookTube has done to me too. I've got Bloodstones up here. I've got The Way of Edan up here.
Oh, that one's good too. That one's really good.
Just like, well, like you said, when I do an author event every month, I've got at least one I've got to do.
Right.
I've got the full-time job. I'm currently doing a second job to pay for all the paint.
Well, you just moved.
I know,
And
but
paint
we had
is,
to redo it all. Duh.
yeah, it's got. I have to make it mine. It has to be my house.
But yeah, yeah. So, but no, absolutely loving it. But yeah, the books, I can't quite do the 100 pages. Although every once in a while, a book will just grab me. I can't remember which
Yeah.
one it was. There was one. Oh, Breath of the Dragon comes out in January. It's by Fonda Lee and Shannon Lee,
Yeah. I've seen that.
and
It's about Bruce Lee.
it's kind of big. Well, I'll tell people like this: if you like The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter, a lot of the storyline is kind of the same. Kind of like when you think about The Stand versus Swan Song. But of course, one's very much got an African motif underneath it. This one's got a very much Eastern motif underneath it. But a lot of the kind of the general story is kind of the same. And it was, don't get me wrong, it's really, really good. It's one of those ones where I think whichever one you read first, you'll like better.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one, I think NetGalley's finally figured me out. They're like, you have 48 hours to read this one.
How can you do that?
Oh, it took me a while. I don't know if they would have enforced it, but I did get it done in 48 hours. Like I said, it was so much. And again, I don't want to say it's derivative, but it was so much like Rage of the Dragons, which I already loved.
Yeah.
It was just a smooth read, went right through it.
Wow.
And it definitely ends. There's got to be a book two.
I have no doubt. Like the last one, I read Doomakey at the beginning of this month, and it's like Stephen King is such comfort food for me, that it's like 700 something pages. I read it in 5 days because that wavelength. I've read so many Stephen Kings, I could just.
And I think that's true, though. There's a lot like you and I both love Service Model.
I really love Service Model.
But to me, as much as I love Service Model, and I gave it 5 stars, Adrian Tchaikovsky's not a beach read.
You can't just shut your mind down. Yeah.
No. It's not one of those ones where you can just, because there's other books I've read. The Myron, or no, was it Myron? Myron Bolitar? I can't think of it now. Maybe that's the other one. The guy who does the ones where it's the Bolitar series. I just can't remember who it is. It's Harlan Coben series.
Okay.
His books, I can sit down with the Coben books series and just zoom right through it.
Yeah.
Never have to grab a thesaurus.
Yeah. Oh, right. I got you. I totally got you. I'm like that with F. Paul Wilson or Jonathan Mayberry. I've got authors like that, the New Dresden book. You pick up the New Dresden book. I'm probably going to devour that in very few days because,
Yeah. So, some of it's, what type of read it is. There are certain times you can sit down and my other thing too, and if any authors are paying any attention, short chapters. That is my Achilles heel. Somebody won't, it's like, I don't have time to watch an hour and a half movie, but I'll watch 4 30-minute episodes of something.
Right, exactly.
If you have a short chapter and I get to the end of a chapter, I'm like, one more chapter.
Yeah. I'm so much, and that's both of those authors I just mentioned, Jonathan Mayberry and F. Paul Wilson. Like they do thrillers with supernatural, stuff in there, and they've got that trick down. Like I can get one more chapter in, it's 4 pages long. Like I'll just get this one. Well, I can't stop there, and then the next thing you know, you've been up way, way too late. But like Robin Hobb that I'm reading right now, every chapter you start, this is at least 20 pages.
I've had some that are like 80 pages, and I'm like, when
I hear Malazan,
I sit down and I know I'm going to read that, and about halfway through that chapter, I'm flipping to see how many more pages I have.
Yeah, I think Malazan. I think Brian was telling me the Malazan chapters are can be 100 pages long. It's crazy.
He's also talking about the fact that there's no margins, and apparently it's in
was he 100 pages of Malazan is about 200, 250 pages of any other book. Small font, barely any margins, entire page covered text. That's Stephen Erickson has a lot to say. I'm going to find out in February when I read Gardens of the Moon.
Yeah, I remember when these eyes were made for mass market paperbacks, and they're not really made for
Oh,
that anymore.
see, and I'm reading Assassin's Quest in a mass market paperback.
It's not the same. People don't understand this. Mass market paperbacks they're in a smaller font and they're
Oh,
on a
much.
cheaper paper so it doesn't pop. I found this out the hard way. A lot of the trade paperbacks
Mm-hmm.
are hardcovers that didn't sell.
Really? And they just take the pages over and bind them, or?
Yep, I found this out. I was working at the bookstore, and we had a book somebody went to buy, and we realized that for some reason there was a receipt in the middle of it,
Mm-hmm.
but it was in the middle of it. You couldn't take it out. It wasn't just tucked in.
Yeah.
And at first I'm thinking is this some sort of, kind of a fun thing? Is this a store that's in the book or
Yeah.
something like that? And so finally I called the number on the receipt and they're like, well, no, we did have a hardcover that we returned because they looked it up by the receipt number. We sent that back to the publisher. They didn't realize it was in there. They rebounded as the trade paperback. That's why the trade paperback pages look so good. They're the same pages that would have been in the hardcover.
Did not know that.
Maybe they don't do it for all of them, but they definitely do it.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. Like you could see some trade paperbacks. I mean, they're plenty big to be. I mean,
Right.
they're the same size. That would make sense.
Apparently, I didn't catch where he said it. That always throws me off when I'm not paying attention to chat. But you beat Zach to something.
Well, who knows? I'm sorry, Zach. So, what do you have coming up that you can't wait to get to, man? Book
Oh
wise.
my goodness, so many. Obviously, I want to finish the good. That was one of my questions for you. Is I know you get your TBR. What currently? And I will answer your question first. What currently do you have a bookmark in? But I got to finish A Good Family by A.H. Kim. That was a book by my community, and I haven't finished it yet, and I feel horrible for that. But I don't have anybody scheduled right now, so it's a good time to fit it in.
Yeah.
I got to get back to Paul Jessup's Glass House. I read his short story collection for the author interview and enjoyed it. Was the one I saw today? I actually posted about it. There is a new one. It dropped today.
Really?
It's a horror one. It's Delilah S. Dawson. I know I posted about it today because I was surprised. I had not heard about it before. It Will Only Hurt for a Moment. That's got a little bit of a horror tinge to it. That one looked interesting. And then I'm sure I've got another list. Obviously, some of the books that I've already read that haven't come out yet. The Breath of Dragon by the Lees. Breath of the Dragon. That one is really, really good. I enjoyed that one. I'm probably just like you. I've got a ton of them, and there's something I want to read in almost every genre. There are horrors that I want to read.
Sure.
Historical Ian fiction. Rogers' Sycamore is supposed to be coming out, and then next month, all of his. I can't remember if it's a novel or if it's just all of his short stories collection. I think it's a novel. They're doing one of his books. In fact, I just got this poor guy. I think he introduced one of these as his debut novel. And then another publisher picked up one of his other novels at the same time, and they're coming out on each other's heels to the fact that I don't remember which one's the debut anymore. He went from having nothing but short stories to having like 3 novels coming out in the same year. Just crazy.
Good for him, man.
Oh, yeah, he's awesome. I love Ian. Another one of those guys is up in Canada that's not supposed to write horror novels because they're supposed to be nice people, but he writes horror.
It's all hidden, man. It's all hidden. It's all deep underneath.
Oh, Zach was talking about the short stories in the Mayberry books.
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude, he's got that trick so down. Absolutely. Well, he's like, you can't stop reading him anyway. It's just like, it is so addictive. His thrillers will just suck you in.
Ooh, 2 more I'm waiting for because he just announced it. John Wiswell's got a new book coming out in June. Actually, Kate Elliott has another book coming out in June too, and so does V.E. Schwab, because I told him 2 of them are already coming out on the 10th. I told Wiswell he can't drop his on the 10th too because I don't have enough book money. But V.E. Schwab's got a new one that she has been gushing about for a while now, and I can't wait to read that one.
Really? Is it like all new, or is it one of her series?
No, it's brand new. It's Bury the Bones something. I don't remember the name of it.
I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah, that's the downside. I follow too many authors, and so I know way too many books that are coming out.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
also listen to a lot of advanced listening copies and read a lot of advanced reading copies. So
See, you know what? I don't do much of that. I mean, I don't get them sent to me anyway. And NetGalley, you know what? I was doing NetGalley a little bit, but electronic books really mess with my eyes. Like I have a hard time,
I get it.
kind of. I start to lose sleep. Like I start to have, if I read on a screen like too late into the night, I find myself my sleep patterns get messed up a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's hard to fall asleep after you've read a ebook. You get
Yeah,
that light glaring in
um,
your face.
yeah. So I try to stick with paper. So I don't do a lot of arcs, but I've got so much backed up. Like the stuff I'm looking forward to. Like I want to get back to Sun Eater. I can't wait to start the War of Light and Shadows buddy read. I can't wait to get into Prince of Nothing series or Gardens of the Moon or um, Greenbone or Dandelion Dynasty or like all these that I hear amazing things about. Um, I can't wait to get in there. And I've got so many going like currently that I can't wait to get back to, you know?
Yeah,
I,
Dandelion Dynasty is another one that's been on my TBR forever.
right. And I just got that, beautiful midnight edition from Broken Binding. So it's like, that's pushing me to read them,
Before I forget, and one thing we're talking a little long here, but one thing I meant to tell you, I have got to get you over on Blue Sky.
Well, I don't even know what that is.
So Blue Sky, Twitter's dying.
I don't know. Is it?
Yeah, a lot of people are. I won't get political. Not a lot of people are happy with Musk. We'll just leave it at that.
I mean, dude, I don't know how any of this stuff works.
So a lot of the people, like for instance, I know Rebecca Rowan Horse. She has nothing to do with Twitter. She has doesn't want nothing to do with it.
Left the building. She's gone.
Exactly. And I have found that a lot of the readers have moved over to Threads.
Okay.
It's
What's
a lot
that
less-
on?
Threads is like Facebook's answer to Twitter.
Okay.
So Facebook Meta owns Threads, but there's a lot of cool people over there. Blue Sky is where I found a lot of the authors have fled to.
Okay.
John Scalzi. I won't mention him because he's persona non grata right now. Somebody else I just thought of. Not John Scalzi. Scalzi's fine. But Paul Jessup. A lot of the horror authors are over there. A lot of the science fiction authors over there. Fantasy authors.
Okay.
There's a lot of people that have moved to Blue Sky.
Okay.
Johnny got a Blue Sky account.
All right. Cool.
Or Janny.
Okay.
Janny, sorry. I just read John right above it. So
yeah, no, Janny just got an account on Blue Sky.
So yeah, a lot of the authors are over on Blue Sky. And if you guys like horror, every Saturday at 9 Eastern, author Paul Jessup runs it, but there's a bunch of people on it. We watch a horror movie.
Oh, that's cool.
We all start at the same time. Everybody makes a comment, and he always makes sure, and he's got people that check in other countries too, just to make sure that it's available. It's usually something on Tubby or Tubi or however you pronounce that channel that you can watch for free.
Yeah.
So, and then basically it turns into Mystery Science Theater 3000. I make a bunch of stupid comments about, it's like, yeah. Because some of those old horror movies are just horrible.
They're the best, man. They're the best.
They're the best, but they're horrible.
Yeah, that's what makes them the best. There used to be a thing where I grew up in Texas. Every Friday night at midnight, it was this thing called Project Terror, and it would just be like the most cheesiest horrible horror movie from the 50s or something. And we would stay up late every Friday. That was my childhood. Is like making fun of that stuff. I love that stuff.
Well, that's our Saturday nights, just watching old movies and making stupid comments about it. Some people make actual, intelligent, educated comments about it, and then
that's not me.
Peanut gallery.
So how do you stay up on all this? Like Amy makes the shorts for me, right? Like Jacob does. Like how you was just saying, I didn't post this. Like if Jacob's busy with dinner or something like that, like I don't, like how do you keep up with all where people are going and what's going on and this platform is dying and stuff? Like I have no clue.
Well, first of all, not sponsored, but I use them for my browser. I use Opera GX for my browser. It's got my socials on a tab along the side. So if somebody posts something on Instagram that I follow or something like that, it pops up. X is there, and then I usually keep a tab open for Threads and Blue Sky. But if I had Instagram open, because Meta owns Instagram now too, it'll tell me when a Threads pops up, but I don't have it on the side. So I've got Discord on the side. All that stuff pops up. And it just basically, I find this out because, you know, me, the bread and butter of this show is still author interviews.
Oh yeah.
So I'm
that's
always
sure.
looking for the authors where they're at, and I look for where they're on their socials, because some authors, it's very easy to find their email address, their personal email address, and I can connect to them. Other ones, I've got to go through their webmaster or their, whoever answers their fan mail or whatever, or sometimes even the publisher.
Yeah.
I was talking to author John Evans. He's got a horror book coming out next year that we might be discussing. So him, I went through the publisher on. Although I did find him on his Gmail later, so I think she snuck that in on me just so that I have to talk to her. But that's where I find them, is trying to find these, because again, if I have to go through somebody else, it's much harder to get them on.
Yeah.
If I can talk to the author directly, quite often, for instance, I got Lydia King on when she had written a Star Wars book last year, one of the Star Wars novels. But of course, as soon as Disney found out she was going to be on the channel, they wanted to see all the questions ahead of time and everything else.
Oh, you're kidding me.
No. So we just ended up talking about a couple of her other books, but just to avoid, just so we didn't have to worry about it. Didn't want to get her in trouble. But
that's hilarious that Disney would want it. Disney would be concerned about what's happening.
Well, I think it was actually through, it might have been published under Hyperion, which I think Disney is like their publishing arm or something. So it was just easier, and she was great. Don't get me wrong. She's local. She's a doctor. I've met her before. So, but yeah. So basically, it's that, because sometimes I'm also reaching out to people through their online stuff. For instance, Mallerman, Josh Mallerman was on last month. You can't find him, or earlier this month. I mean, you can't find his email online. I had to go through, I think I actually tracked him down on Facebook.
Oh, really?
Because that's where he's at. But yeah, some of these authors, if you want to find Joe Hill's email, good luck.
Yeah. I mean, he's got people between us and him too. Yeah. Like he learned from his dad. He learned from the best.
Yeah. So again, so that's why I follow these guys, because I'm always looking. And I tell each author that's been on here, there has been maybe a handful, not even a handful of authors that I've talked to that I hadn't read first.
Oh yeah, dude. I have. It's like I'm blown away. It's like somebody has the confidence. It's like, I'm just gonna have them on, and let them talk about what they want. It's like I would not be confident enough to do that.
I don't think I would be able to hide the fact that, I mean, even if I read the book in time for the interview,
yeah,
I don't think I'd be able to hide the fact if I ended up not liking the book.
Yeah,
I'd have to have somebody on. A couple of people have been on that I hadn't read the book. One was my second interview, which was Elise Stevens. And that's because my son loved her book, and I trust his judgment. And I ended up I read a couple of her stories too, and they were great. And there's been a couple I've had on just because of their short stories. And then I wanted to read some of their longer stuff. But yeah, most of the time I've got to have read an author. Like I said, I dogged Jim Butcher for 2 years before he came on. So
yeah, Brian, he's got people he'll be halfway through. Like I have to have absolutely read what I'm going to be talking to that author about, or there's just I would not sign on.
Yeah. So, and then there's some where I didn't get to finish their series. Like first time Jen Lyons was on, her fourth book in that series was coming out, and it had been so long since I read the first one, because that was a 4-book series. I started reading over, and I did not get to the fourth book before she got on, but I'd read most of the series. We knew it was really easy to avoid spoilers.
Yeah, Jen Lyons, she did Ruin of Kings, right? That's
yep.
Okay. I've got that on the stack. Tell me about
Ruin
that.
of Kings, and then her last one was she just did. I have it up here somewhere. Oh, The Sky on Fire.
Yeah.
She actually sent me the arc, but they sent me 2 arcs, which was good because one of them about halfway through was messed up. And then I'm like, nope, I need the hardcover. So I got the hardcover up there.
Yeah.
So I ended
So
up
tell
buying it.
me, I've never read any Jen Lyons. What am I in? What am I in for there?
You were in for, and there are some authors that do this. Basically, that series, that first series, started as a D&D campaign.
Oh, really? Ruin of King, the one that
Yep.
starts with Ruin of
Yep.
King?
That whole Course of Dragon series started as a D&D campaign. And she wanted to do dragons that weren't what everybody else was doing with dragons.
Okay.
I will not tell you who the dragons are, but they're, and even this is Sky on Fire. Again, these are ones with dragon riders, but it's not dragon riders of Pern.
Okay. She likes to go off the beaten path.
She likes to go up beaten path. Shut up, Siri. Shut up. I had my phone up by my face there. Stupid Siri.
That was awesome.
Oh man. But yeah, I'll tell you this much about this one because this is no secret. She made a big deal about the fact these dragons, they don't let you ride them. If you're a dragon rider in this series, that's because you work for them.
Oh, that's
if you're a super intelligent, magical being of that size,
right.
You're not a horse.
Right. That makes total sense.
So these dragons have an attitude.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
But yeah, it was so good. I can't wait for book 2 to come out.
All right.
She's Jen Lyons. I love the fact that she takes the fantasy tropes and then she throws a curveball at you.
Like it. All right, good. I'm glad I have some of hers. I'm gonna try and move her up the stack.
Oh yeah, trust me. I look at my books and I need to move that up the stack. But I also need to move this, and this on the stack.
It's so hard, right? It's crazy hard. Yeah. But what a great problem to have.
Yes. It is a great problem to have. Like I said, that's the main reason I think I have the audiobooks, or I do a lot of audiobooks and I do a lot of ebooks, is I don't have room for 1,600 books in my TBR.
Yeah.
Except for that 1,400 of them are digital.
Yeah, with that amount, that makes total sense.
And I don't know, but I'll tell you what, you talk about the fact that it's weird that people talk to you. I feel you're probably in the same place now. The weirdest thing for me is when somebody I didn't reach out to either sends me something or comments on something.
Yeah.
I did a review for an Alan Eskins book, and I made some sort of comment about something unlike that and just put it up on YouTube. And all of a sudden I've got Alan Eskins. He's like, well, actually, I'm like, holy crap. I didn't think Alan Eskins was actually going to see this.
Yeah. I would not have said it that way.
No, it wasn't anything bad. It was just the fact that now I'm starting to think if I post these, authors might see these that I'm not intending to.
Honestly,
the first time I had an author reach out to me about being on my channel instead of the other way around, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Just today, like I did an opening of the Dragon Bone chair from Broken Binding that came in the sub box for me this month. And it's like, Amy, record me opening this. Oh my gosh, it's a beautiful book and everything. And we threw that out there as a short, right? Mm-hmm. So today I noticed on Twitter that Tad Williams reposted that.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. It's like, that's just surreal. Like that is crazy.
Because I'll tag an author if I'm doing a short of an interview or something like that. But every once in a while, somebody will repost something that I hadn't tagged them in. I'm like, oh, hi, how's it going?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man, that's smart, Brian.
There's a lot.
There's a lot
We're
of
not the only ones using that stuff, though, lately, too, because I've had a couple of books come in, and I'll either get that stuff. In fact, I think, what was the one that was gorgeous? Oh, speaking of, you talked about it earlier. I didn't keep all the paper and stuff, but the Bloodstones.
Yeah.
That came in some freaking gorgeous wrapping.
It really did. She went all out, right?
Yep. And then not only that, but she includes a little written note to you, which I am keeping in this book, by the way. I'll make that all pretty later.
That's
the type of stuff that
I can't wait for you to read that book, man. That is
I'm telling you though, when an author does like that, that's an extra step because I did order it directly so I could get the signed copy.
Yeah, same. Yeah,
But yeah,
absolutely.
the fact that she just added that because I'm not expecting that from anybody.
Well,
But
no,
you know you're
and
going to remember something like that.
absolutely. And how much, like, I don't know how many books she sat there and signed, but to do an extra card too, like that's
Oh yeah,
amazing. That's amazing.
and
Yeah.
it's gorgeous too. It's like the black background. She's got that
Oh, it's
silver
so pretty.
sharpie going on.
Yeah, it's really pretty. It's really pretty. That book deserves
I'm not a
every
Raiders
tone.
fan, but a Raider would love that.
Oh, a Raider would absolutely love that. And I am a Spurs fan, so silver and black. So that's how I took
That
that.
is true. You are rocking the shirt.
You know it. You know it. Thursday, opening night, getting ready.
Yeah, I don't have the Sun shirt, so I couldn't match it today.
You gotta go out and get one, Ed. You gotta get
Although
ready.
it ended up being too hot today. I did actually have a flannel ready because I was going to tell you I had my fall shirt on, but I needed it yesterday. Today it warmed up again.
Yeah, it warmed up a little bit today too, but it's coming.
It's coming. Yeah, it was here briefly and then it went away again. It was like 32 degrees the other morning.
Oh, that's cold.
It
I
did
love
last.
fall. I love fall.
Okay, is anybody else in the comments have any questions? I was trying to think if there's anything else that I absolutely had to ask you.
Oh, probably not. I'm not that interesting.
Dude, man, you were on here for. Here's the thing I love about BookTube, and I think you
Yeah.
feel the same way. We can watch Tori Tekken for what she brings to BookTube, and
Absolutely.
Mike for what he does, and Patrick for what he does, and you
Yeah.
for what you do, and you all bring different stuff.
Yeah.
We're not watching 4 versions of the same channel.
Right. But isn't that the magic, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're talking about story or you're sharing art with other people that appreciate art and they want to open themselves up to story and open themselves up to experience, it's going to hit everyone in a different way.
Oh yeah.
So to get that emotional outpouring of someone that has been impacted by art and to see that, oh, it hit him so differently, it's special. It's life affirming, right? To see how art can impact all of us in a different way. And I think that's what's so beautiful about all the different channels. And I'm like you, like I watch a lot of different people. And I'll watch a lot of different people read the same book, so.
Zach is really trying to get you to embarrass Jacob. That's the second time he's put that up there.
You know what? Jacob has no embarrassing story. We actually have some photographs that we might show his fiance someday when he was a little kid. Jacob was one of those kids that was such a perfect kid. He made up his own rules. He put himself to bed. He was just such an amazing kid. He either had us completely fooled and he was running a complete black market thing out of his bedroom at school and stuff, or he was just like one of the best kids out there.
And apparently Rick Thunder is in the building.
Hey, Rick Thunder knows I love hot tubs and Ready Whip. And he knows why, because we're from that time. That's all I need to say about that.
I'm staying out of this conversation at this point. All right, so got one more question for you, maybe the biggest question ever. What do you think you're going to see next? George R. R. Martin's The Winds of Winter.
Oh, okay.
Patrick Rothfuss' The Door of Stone.
Okay.
Or The End of the World by God. Which one of those is more likely to happen first?
Wow. It could look. I'm gonna say A.
If he's going to finish it, I think he is. And don't get me wrong, I loved Name of the Wind.
I love Name of the Wind too, but I think George is closer. And I did love Name of the Wind, but I think, look, I'm not saying he's going to finish the series, but I think we're going to see Winds of Winter. And I think we'll see it before Doors of Stone. Patrick Rothfuss, I think, is just kind of getting himself back in with the reworking of the novella he just put out. Mm-hmm. And I think George Railroad Martin is further down the line of actually having a completed book. I think he's going to cross that finish line. I think that I'm going to go with A. That's my favorite series of all time in the fantasy genre. I'm going with A.
All right, sounds good. I feel like Patrick has, and I'm just saying that to shorten it. We're not on first name basis. I feel like his first two books, for everybody except for Mike, were so well received.
Yeah.
I feel like he has to be perfect on that third book.
Well, I mean, it's right. Like I
I
get
wrong.
it. No, I think and how could you not be a little bit almost petrified from your own success, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think George might have some of that, and I'm not on a first name basis with him either. I just shortened it. I think he might have some of that as well. You know, like Game of Thrones, like A Song of Ice and Fire, is a legitimate phenomenon now.
Yeah.
You know, and how do you stick the landing? Like, how do you stick the landing on that? You know, I think they're a little bit. I think they're kind of victims of their success in a way.
Yeah, I think if you throw out the last season, the TV show brought such a huge population that had never read the books to it
Yeah.
that I feel like George he's kind of the same thing. He's almost got too many people to please.
Yeah. And so many people were unhappy with that final season. Then he's like, okay, I must go. He's got to be thinking, I better veer off from that.
I don't even know if it was the story so much as I don't think the execution. I think George could have written the same plot and had it turn out a lot better. That last season felt rushed.
Well, look, I agree with you. I do think George R. Martin could have written a lot of what happened in that last season, and the character motivations would have made more sense to us because he would have had the time and space of all those pages to build it up to that, right? And he's so good at character motivations anyways. I mean, that's why you can't stand somebody from one book and the very next book you're the one he's rooting for, you're rooting for the most. That's because he builds up the motivations of the characters and you completely internalize them and follow them and are all in. So I agree with you. I think he could kind of have been on that same on that same place for that ending season and made it work far more. But watching all of the fallout from that, you as an artist, how do you not internalize some of that? How does that not seem to be like a landmine for you now? Even though if you do have the potential to make it work, I think I think they're both kind of victims of their success a little bit.
Well, like me too. I thought like the final season, on the outside chance nobody's seen it, I won't do any spoilers, but the scene at the end where she's on the dragon going over the city back and forth and she is upset.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that would have been so much more of an emotional thing if you saw her flashing back to her friend and stuff like that. And instead it was just her face.
Upset.
Her
but
face.
Right, but what do books give us? What do books give us?
The internal.
This is why they give us an internal monologue.
Yep.
They give us an internal monologue that allows us to step into the shoes of that character and internalize all those thoughts and walk in the shoes of the character and be that character. Right?
Yep.
A visual medium is completely different. So
I think that's why almost every time the book's better than the movie.
yeah, I would agree with you because you get that internal part of the character that it's so hard to do. Like going all the way back to a visual medium, Shakespeare would do it with his soliloquies and stuff.
Yep.
But in a more modern visual type of storytelling, it is so hard to break the fourth wall or to have a soliloquy or to you know, ever since crime noir movies have a narration in the background, stuff like that. You know, it's so hard to do. So hard to do.
Yeah, I've seen a few TV shows pull it off, but yeah, for a movie, it doesn't usually work too well. Only movies that I've really liked, I thought were maybe as good as the book or possibly better. Martian, still, I think was the best adaptation.
It's a great.
The stuff they left out, it would have been a 7-hour movie if they hadn't. So
Yeah.
I get that. And I still found, I don't know, did you ever read The Bourne Identity?
No.
Have you seen the movie?
Yeah.
Okay. Her character, the young girl's character, whose name has just escaped me, in the movie, in the book, She was the Canadian Minister of Finance.
Mm.
She was an older professional woman, and I just didn't. I mean, I know Stockholm syndrome's a real thing and stuff like that, but I never bought her falling for him in the book the way I bought it in the movie, and the movie was just action packed. So
Yeah.
I think that was the one time I saw a movie, not including Gremlins, when the book was based on the movie instead of the other way around. One of the few times I actually liked the movie better.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it is like what? Oh, it's a 9 o'clock your time there.
Yep. A little after
We've been
9.
yakking for 2 hours, which again, I've done this before. I don't have a problem. I would love talking to you even longer, but maybe we should save it for a different episode.
Sure. Absolutely.
Plus, it's after 8 here, which means the wife is going to bed soon, is going to be reading, and if I don't shut up by 9 o'clock, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, hey, it's been such a pleasure for me to hang out with you, Ed. I mean,
No,
I
I've
could talk.
loved it. I've been waiting to talk to you.
I could talk to you for just just ad nauseum. It's been a great
And
time.
Still going to try to get Brian on at some point. I did tease you earlier, Brian, but we just know you are busy as all get out. So
He's the hardest working man on BookTube, man.
we have talked about it. I'm not throwing him under the bus on that. We just never managed to get the times to line up. And then I didn't see him in here, but like I said, I'm hoping. I told him he had to wait because I was waiting to hear back from an author. But I am hoping to line up and be on your nephew, Britton's channel.
Oh yeah.
Yep, he'd asked me, so I'm going to see if I can pull that off.
Yeah.
I couldn't verify with him yet until I hear back from somebody because I didn't want those to overlap.
Sure. No, Britton is a fun hangout.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, he looks like he'd be a blast. So
He is.
we'll have that going on. And what do you got coming up next that you maybe haven't talked about? I think you talked because you always do. You're like me. You've got the updates. So I don't know if there's a whole lot to talk about.
Yeah, no, I mean, I got, same thing. Catch us every Sunday. What we've been reading, we'll do some shenanigans through the week. We're on, we got the Discord and the Twitter and all that stuff. Regular stuff.
You're my Monday morning watch instead of working. So that's that's why I don't.
Well,
watch on
I mean,
Sunday.
I don't know how high is that bar.
Hey, you're the one that I have to watch every Monday, unless something happens.
As opposed to working, that's a pretty low bar.
All right.
No, that's very kind. That's amazing. That's amazingly kind. Thank you very much, Ed. You're very, very sweet, man. And
Appreciate it.
I don't know, man. This is such a joy. It's such a joy, such a pleasure to be hanging out with you.
So just not to confuse anybody, I did drop a link in the chat. That is an affiliate link. I just want to throw that out there because that is good through November 30th. If you have not signed up with Libro.fm, they're not sponsoring the channel, but I did reach out to them for the horror recommendations for Halloween. If you use that link and sign up, they're kind of the same as Audible, same price, all that good stuff, except for you get to choose a local independent bookstore to give some of the proceeds to. And with that link, you'll also start off with 3 credits to spend on your first month instead of 1. Ooh. So, and if you like I said, I told you already know this. I tell everybody this. I'm not always an audiobook fan, but Josh Mallerman's Incidents Around the House, you have to listen to the audiobook.
Oh, okay.
The narrator, she's a young girl, Delaney Nicole Gill. I think she was like 17 when she did it. She sucks you into that character.
Oh, okay.
You feel everything that little girl feels. Only book I've ever been sitting there is like, I started out going, oh, a little girl's voice for 8 hours. And by the end, I was just like, I almost hope he writes a book too. I've never had a narrator draw me in to the emotions that much before.
That's awesome. Cool. Okay.
So I'm hoping she gets to narrate some more stuff. But yeah, Mallerman was cool too. Did you get to watch the Mallerman one? I know you're a horror guy.
No, but I'll go back and do that. I've never read any of his stuff.
Yeah. He did the Bird Box is probably what he's best known for.
I watched the Netflix movie.
I've never talked to a man so much, or talked to a man who so much has the ability to look like they can't sit still because they're full of energy.
Yeah.
And also be so chill at the same time. He's like perfectly balanced. I'm like, how can you be this so calm and yet I still feel like you're ready to run a marathon?
That's because he gets all that dark, evil stuff on the page. He's completely balanced inside.
Yeah, he was fun. Like I said, my horror, I love my fantasy and sci-fi authors, But my horror authors, there's just something about them. I haven't had a bad one on.
No,
Not that
I'm
I've had a
telling
bad
you.
fantasy author on either, but the horror authors I think have surprised me because I came from such a fantasy background.
Yeah. I mean, getting back to Stephen King this spooky season with Doomickey, I really I want to pick up more. I mean, it makes me miss him, you know?
Question for you before I let you go, because I was talking to Paul Jessup about this the other day. What did you think? Did you watch the show Nosferatu?
The show? Uh-uh.
Okay. So you know Joe Hill wrote Nosferatu.
Yeah. Oh no, that yeah. I think I watched the first season. I don't think I saw all the second season.
Okay.
But I did watch the first season.
Well, I know that Paul had said that he loved the show and then read the book, and after reading the book, he's like, I don't know if I like the show anymore because the book was so much better.
Oh, the book is much better.
Yeah.
Without, I mean, hands down. The book is really, really pretty cool.
I was kind of the same way. I thought the show was cool, but yeah, the
Yeah.
book was phenomenal.
Yeah, and the book kind of makes some hat tips to his dad's work a little bit, and kind of brings the multiverses together a little bit. I really, for a constant reader of the Stephen King, Joe Hill's Nosferatu is a very, 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 very fun read.
Now, I'm going to leave one more to throw in your TBR. I probably told you this before. I know you like Jim Butcher, his
Yeah.
son, James J. Butcher.
I haven't started that series at all.
That
Yeah.
I read the first book. I've got the second book in that series. I think he might be coming up to his third now, but yeah, just enough where you can see where he's got his dad's influence,
Yeah.
but it's not a carbon copy. He takes those type of characters and does his own thing with it to where its own series stands on its own. Really,
Very
really
cool.
good.
Very cool. No, yeah, I've actually have that on my wish list already. I think I've got the first book on there. If not, I'll add it on there for sure.
Gotcha. All right. Well, what do we got there? The third is up for pre-order. Zach is on the ball. He's a comic book guru and our fact checker.
There you go.
Make sure I didn't screw anything up.
Yeah.
All right. So once again, I want to thank you for coming on, John. I may or may not ask you to come back on another time just because I love talking to you.
Anytime, man. Anytime.
It's one of those things where there's certain people that I've had on, like Jen Lyons has been on twice, Paul Jess has been on 3 times. There's certain people that I love talking to, and I'm like, I kind of want you to come back on, but I also don't want it to become, just like where I feel like I've got a hole. We'll just call John and see what he's doing.
Hey, man, call me anytime you have a hole. Because seriously, I would just love to hang out again. We'll just hang out and talk about what we're reading and stuff anytime. I'm so completely down for it.
Appreciate it. And I think I talked about having Brian on and he ran away. I'm just kidding, Brian. I don't care. I don't know if you're in there or not. I just had to. But Brian's another one of those guys I love. Plus, my wife's from Minnesota, so yeah, got that whole Minnesota connection.
Yeah.
And basically anything from Minnesota she'll read. That's where she fell in love with Brian Freeman, William Kent Kruger, John Sanderson. She loves all those Minnesota writers.
Yeah, but William Kent Kruger is really good.
Oh, he was great.
Yeah,
I loved having him on.
Ordinary Grace was a great read.
He's another one of those guys where I think you talked about McCammon kind of falling off where he couldn't get his stuff written. Ordinary Grace was kind of his first standalone because he had the Cork O'Connor series, mystery series. That's what he was known for. And then he wanted to do this other almost coming of age type story, which I always felt that and This Tender Land both kind of had a little bit of Tom Sawyer in them.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt.
And it's just like he had to convince the publishers, I can write something besides a mystery.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of mystery in Ordinary Grace too. I mean,
right. But I think
no.
Butcher has the same problem. He's like, they want the next Dresden novel. It's like, I would like to write something else once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah. But I sure would like the next Dresden novel.
Cold Iron Task. That sounds like it goes with the rest of his Damien scheme too. And that's coming out in March.
3/4/25. You need to get caught up, man.
I may have to see if I can get James on.
There you go.
I don't know if I have anything scheduled I don't have anything scheduled for next year, but I do have a bunch of irons in the fire, so to speak, waiting to hear back from some people. But yeah, I would love to have him on.
Well, I'm going to do my best to make a little road trip to find our our guy Robert McCammon and see.
Dude, yeah, McCammon's the best. I mean, I don't know him personally, but as an author, love that man since I burned through almost all of his books so fast. Even Swan Song, that thing's a chonker.
Oh, it's huge. I think I have read everything he's written. I really do.
Yeah. I've just got to read his new stuff. That's all.
Yeah.
Gone South on. That's the stuff I got to catch up on. I even read his Bedtime Story. You may not have seen that one.
I don't think I've read that one.
A chap book.
Okay.
So it was very small. It was very short. It was his homage to. Oh my goodness, I brain dumped. It was written kind of as an homage to another author. Not the Brian Freeman I've had on, but the other Brian James Freeman, I think is his name, is a horror author. I think he runs Levidian Publishing. That was a chap book that went out to Patreons. I literally, and I don't think Brian James Freeman's going to be surprised by this, I literally signed up for that, his Patreon, to get that chap book.
Just to get the chap book? Yeah. I do love Levidian. They've done the last several Matthew Corbett books.
Yeah, Levidian's great, and I'm starting to fall in love with some of the stuff Cemetery Dance is putting out too now. So
that's pretty stuff too. Yeah.
So, all right. So, like always, I've said goodbye like 3 times. So, everybody in the chat, I thank you for hanging out. I had a blast. One of my favorites here. I don't feel like I need to tell you guys who this is. I think y'all came to see him, not me. But that's basically how I run around here.
Yeah. Well, you do. I think I'm drafting off of you.
So, all right. Thank the wife for letting you stay up so late. If that's even a thing, I don't know.
100%.
Because I've had a few people where they're like, we've been talking for 3 hours. My wife's waiting for me. He's like, okay, well, shut up now.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. You do the same. Thank your wife for giving you up for a little bit.
Yep. She's this is my outlet. It's better this than drugs. So, this is my.
Well, again, that's a really low bar for me, Ed, but thanks. I'm better than drugs.
I meant letting me do this is better.
I'm better than drugs and work Monday mornings. Whenever I'm feeling
depending on the drugs, that could be a high bar.
I guess you're right. You're absolutely right.
All right. Appreciate it. Everybody have a good night, and we will talk at you later.